Chevy. See your Super Chevy dealers of Baton Rouge.
This is LSU football.
Snap back to Daniels. Has time. Throws towards the end zone to Neighbors. Made the catch. Is he inbounds? Yes, he is! Touchdown, Fighting Tigers! Empty backfield for Daniels. Pocket holds. Daniels airs it out. One-on-one. Thomas has it at the 13, inside the 10, to the 5. Touchdown, Fighting Tigers!
LSU football on Eagle 98.1, the flagship home of the Tigers. Tonight, from Vaught Hemingway Stadium in Oxford, it's the LSU Tigers
And the Ole Miss Rebels.
Now,
Here's Charles Sandegriff and Matt Muscona.
Houses, corner of Burbank and Lee. Welcome to Eagle 98.1 Game Day. As we get you ready for this afternoon's ball game in Oxford, Mississippi, between the LSU Tigers and the Ole Miss Rebels. The Tigers come in with a record of 3-1, 2-0 in the Southeastern Conference, and coming off a 34-31 win over Arkansas at Tiger Stadium last week. LSU ranked 12th in the nation by the coaches and 13th by the Associated Press. Through one-third of the season, the Tigers are a very unbalanced but productive football team. They've been dominant on offense, leaky on defense, improved on special teams, though concerns still remain there. The first of a tricky little two-game road trip in Southeastern Conference play starts tonight in Oxford, Mississippi. It's been a tricky little spot for LSU to go over the years. They'll face a hostile crowd and, of course, Lane Kiffin, one of the more creative coaches in the nation. Ole Miss also comes in with a record of 3-1. They lost their first game of the season last week, 24-10 in Tuscaloosa. That was their first SEC game of the year as well. The Rebels are ranked 20th in the nation by the AP and also by the coaches. For Lane Kiffin, it's a team that looks quite a bit different than his first three at Ole Miss. Those teams, explosive offensively, were dependent upon a power running game. Ole Miss was either first or second in the Southeastern Conference in rushing in Lane Kiffin's first 3 seasons. That includes a running quarterback. This year, despite returning 4 out of 5 offensive linemen and the SEC's leading returning rusher in Quinshon Judkins, the Rebels have had a hard time establishing a ground game. It's put more pressure on quarterback Jackson Dart, who's been up and down through the first 4 games of the season. Figure to be plenty of points today in this game, as both of these teams are at the top of the Southeastern Conference in scoring, and even with each having put up 70 points in blowout wins, that has skewed the numbers a little bit. These are two very good offenses. Musso, it might end up being who can make 1 or 2 defensive stops. When you put all of the spotlight on the offense, sometimes it's the other side of the ball that ends up making the difference in a game.
It is, and I mean, when you're talking about defensive stops, obviously everybody's going to want to know about LSU secondary in this game going up against Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, because we all assume the passing game, right? But you mentioned the running game that's been so big for them throughout his time, whether it be at Ole Miss or at Alabama or or USC or wherever he's been, and that just hasn't been there. The trenches are going to be huge too. Can LSU get a pass rush? You mentioned the 4 out of 5 starters. They've really struggled. That's the way to probably slow them down the most, is to constantly harass Jackson Dart throughout, like LSU was able to do last year in Tiger Stadium.
Big day in college football. We're getting you ready for LSU and Ole Miss. Lots of action going on around the conference. A really good game going on in Arlington between A&M and Arkansas. That in that series that has usually been a very good matchup and a very exciting game. In Lexington, Kentucky, the Wildcats have shown up. The Gators slept in today. So that one has gotten a little bit away. We'll tell you about everything that's going on in college football. Our entire staff here to help you get ready for this afternoon's game between LSU and Ole Miss. We're at Rouse's, Burbank and Lee. Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. A poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Cold in Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, including
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Skull Session.
Offense. Presented by Gulf Coast Bank. Gulf Coast Bank, the bank that cares about you. Now, here's Charles Hannegriff.
And from the LSU Sports Radio Network, Gordy Rush.
Our Bears countdown to kickoff here from Rouse is just under 5 hours to the Tigers and the Rebels in Oxford. Gordy, good afternoon. How are you?
Hey, I'm en route to Oxford, just north of Jackson, on a beautiful Saturday afternoon.
The offense for LSU is as dynamic as there is going in the Southeastern Conference today. They're the number 1 scoring offense. They're the number 2 passing offense. They're the number 3 rushing offense. They've got balance. They've got some diversity in their personnel. They've got a quarterback playing at the top of his game. Usually we take these segments and we talk about what they need to fix. Offensively, right now, that's a pretty short list.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing in looking at the performances thus far is just getting Jaden in a rhythm. The offense was not in a rhythm in the first half against Florida State. Against Arkansas, it reminded me a little bit of early Jaden 2022 when there was some anxiety and he was a little antsy and you know, he was getting his trying to get his feet set and his little high on some balls, but once he's settled in, once he's got into a rhythm, once he's been able to really do a fantastic job of identifying defensively what he's looking at, he's been spectacular this year.
So when you get an offense that's rolling with the efficiency that LSU is, it requires some creativity on the other side to see what you can do to stop it. I would imagine that LSU is going to start to see some different defensive looks. I wouldn't go so far as say exotic defensive looks, but something different than what they've seen the first 4 weeks of the season. What might Lane Kiffin have there that maybe LSU hasn't seen so far?
We're talking about Pete Golding, right?
Yeah.
Defensively.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I mean, I think what's been interesting of Golding thus far is what would happen to him when he got from under Nick Saban, right? And so, It was at Southeastern, and then had that huge jump up when Saban grabbed him, and so it's been Nick's defense so far been much more aggressive, much more man-to-man behind it, and his group that he has. I remember looking. I was on in the end zone last year, watching Ole Miss's defense. Charlie, I'll tell you, -1 defensive end, it was like 6'6". That didn't look like an SEC defense. They were undersized, undermanned, and LSU really leaned on them in the second half. So I'll be interested to see the eye test when I get there. And I think it's probably a combination of both. He's going to bring some pressure, and I would bring some pressure as well because I want to see I've seen where Jaden has struggled when he hasn't been settled in, so I want to make him uncomfortable, especially on the road.
Early on in the season, the offensive line on the right side was going through, I would say, a little bit, just kind of growing pains a little bit. Miles Frazier had a rough go there early. Last 2 weeks, and then they put Lance Hurd in, and they were working him in. It seems, though, that over the last 2 weeks that Frazier has kind of settled in, more closer to what we saw to him last year. It's maybe presented a few less opportunities for Hurd, but that combined with Logan Diggs has really gotten the running game going.
No, absolutely. Frazier's been fantastic, and I think a lot of Frazier's issues was a lot of LSU's issues in the opener. It was Florida State. I mean, Florida State's defensive front is one of the better in college football, and Florida State was a better team on that night. I think especially, Charlie, coming on the road, in Oxford, loud stadium with a blitzing attacking defense that's going to give you a lot of different looks. I think you look for the veteran offensive line to stick together for the majority of this game.
Caleb Jackson certainly makes his presence felt when he gets on the field. The freshman has a power-speed combination that's difficult to match. I don't think anybody else on the team has got it. But there is also the learning curve that he's going through. Did not play in his senior year of high school, and he's coming along slowly. But, Gordy, I see the emergence of him as being, you bring him in, fresh legs, later in the game after Diggs and Williams have done a lot of the dirty work. And I could see him being a real closer. Maybe not today. Maybe this is something that doesn't happen until later in October or even November, but awfully high on the freshman.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Talent-wise, he has arguably the highest ceiling of all the tailbacks. The concern in today's game, as I've discussed, is you're going to get a lot of different looks. You're going to get a lot of blitz pickups. There were two huge plays in the ball game against Arkansas, in which Diggs just had tremendous blocks. And that's something that doesn't get highlighted on the sports talk shows or in the newspaper. Is that you have three veterans that have played a lot of football, and Jaden's gonna need that as well as he's recognizing things. We know that they're going to blitz. There are times you're going to want to keep that running back in there. He's going to have to be able to pick somebody up to give you that deep man-to-man matchup with Neighbors or with Thomas that we've seen the last couple of weeks. So I think maybe you see a few plays here and a couple small packages, but they need a running back with some experience that's going to help in the blitz protection.
Hey, let me ask you this question. I'm asking for a friend. If you had a 240-pound quarterback and it was 4th and 1, wouldn't you run a quarterback sneak?
I will. I heard not the Kelsey that's dating Taylor Swift, the other one, Jason. So he said the highest percentage play in football in 4th and 1 is a quarterback sneak. Absolutely. Send Sam Pittman
a text message, would you? If you don't mind. They come up short on 4th and 1 because they're in the shotgun. They hand the ball off deep, and you got 7 yards to run to make one, and of course you don't make it. I take the 240-pound quarterback, put him under center, but I'm.
Behind a big offensive line, too.
Yeah, I would tell you. Gordy, that does bring us to one more LSU offensive question before we flip sides of the ball. Brian Kelly was asked about the under center stuff, and basically I'm paraphrasing his answer was, we don't practice it enough to feel comfortable with it in short yardage situations. This drives me crazy because that is such a high percentage play. In short yardage and goal line, these are the most important plays of the game in any game. Your 3rd and 1s, your 4th and 1s, your 3rd and 4th and goals, and they insist on staying in the shotgun. Why? I mean, I heard his answer. What's yours?
Yeah, it's frustrating. I watched a little bit of, I was watching my kids' game last night and saw that a couple situations where everybody's kind of, and it's a called attack. You get close, you just yell attack, and you want to go shotgun and run the play. Yeah, I'm still digesting that, Charlie, because you and I are getting a little bit older, just a tad of gray in our hair, and we're used to the quarterback getting under center. I think what reality for me was that my sixth grader's now playing football, and he's the center, and it's 100% shotgun. I was like, you do shotgun 100% of the time in sixth grade, and I think that's the way that it's come up. But I'm with you. Is it that hard to get under center and push the quarterback forward? I feel your pain. I'm not a huge fan sometimes of the attack thing, and I'm sure somebody's got 10 pages of statistics that would tell us we're wrong.
Well, here's my solution, okay? I like to try to come up with solutions. I like to try to help whenever I can.
Problem solver.
We talk, they talked an awful lot about the amount of time that Jaden Daniels spends in the building, right? He had to have his key card reprogrammed so he could get in there at 5 o'clock in the morning. He stays till it, and I think that's wonderful. I think that some of this time could be spent with Charles Turner. Turner and Daniels go into the indoor, and he just snaps him the football for 20 minutes a day. And then you don't worry about your snaps after that, and you can get a snap, and you can run a quarterback sneak on 4th and 1. It's just an idea. I'm not,
Yeah, Charlie, let me, if we win tonight, I'll try and mix that into the post-game presser. Let's see how that works.
You know what? I'm always anxious to help here, Gordy. We'll take a break, and we'll come back with the defensive side of the ball. We're here at Rouse's, the Rouse's brand of products, the best quality products at the best price, and they compare the leading national brands that Rouse's Market sells, but at a lower cost. Most of the Rouse's Market brands made right here at home, and Rouse's travels the world as well. They personally taste and try and guarantee everything in their brand. So if the Rouse's Market's name is on it, you know it's good. This is Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Life in Louisiana is a song. A symphony of sound, colors, and movement. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Skull Session.
Defense. Presented by Edward Jones, making sense of investments. Now here's Charles Hannegriff.
And from the LSU Sports Radio Network, Gordy Rush.
Isla Bears countdown to kickoff is 4 hours and 40 minutes. Gordy rejoins us now. Gordy, as opposed to the offense where there's not very many problems, on the defense there's quite a lot. Let's start with the coverage bust that they had a week ago. These were primarily related to the tight end, but not exclusively. What did you see on some of these deep balls that Arkansas was able to complete?
Well, I mean, the two big ones, Alexander they were playing zone on that first long bust to the tight end, and yeah, in a scramble drill, your deep is the deepest. He was in zone, he had deep 1/3, and so when Jefferson got flush in the corner, he just froze, and the tight end ran right by him. Really inexcusable. And when you look at Penn was closing in on Jefferson, another 2 yards away from probably making content, it was unnecessary. And it's just fundamentally zone-wise, it's a mistake. And then next one, they did a great job down on the goal line of, was it Hans or Lenz was the tight end, 9, was lined up at the wing back towards the field, and he just came across the formation. They ran run motion away from him, and Major Burns got caught up in the wash, and he was playing run and never saw the tight end sneak out. That's why he was so wide open. And I think that when you look at the DB play has not been all bad. I think the concern is you had what I'll call too many double negative plays, right? There's a negative and there's a double negative. And when you make a mistake on the back end, it's 6 points. And the frustrating thing is if you would have graded out LSU's defense against Arkansas, there was a lot to like. There were a lot of really positive plays and behind the line and sack and pressure and things that were really done well. But you're sitting there with a couple of eyesores, and the question is, how do you clean all that up against a coach that is more creative, right, than Dan Enos, and Kiffin is a more creative play caller. He purposely is going to give you a lot of eye candy, and now he's seeing that you don't have great discipline on the back end. He's going to try and trick you and fool you, and so they're going to have, they're going to have their hands full on playing a clean game and limiting the number of mistakes.
The number that sticks out like a sore thumb is the third down defense. They've had a miserable time getting off the field. So when people ask me, how do you improve the third down defense, I think that's a difficult question because it depends on what offense you're facing. It depends on third and how long. It depends on where you're at in the field. It depends on what time is left in the game. But Gordy, just, as an overall, kind of wide-angle lens on this thing, what can you do about the third downs, because that's been the most glaring statistic against?
Yeah, I mean, you are who you are. I mean, I don't know schematically. I think what they've got a better chance, in my opinion, getting after people and trying to play man behind it, and it's more of a risk reward. But one of the strengths of this front seven is obviously Perkins. You have Jefferson and Wingo that are above average in getting pressure on the quarterback and getting after him, and you got a host of athletes to do so. I think it's just executing what's called. I don't think you can get in there schematically and do a whole lot different.
Ole Miss has, under Lane Kiffin, been an outstanding rushing team. The first 3 years there, they were either first or second in the Southeastern Conference in rushing. I really thought when we were doing previews during the summer that would continue. They brought back 4 out of 5 offensive linemen. They bring back the quarterback. The head coach is still the same. And Quinshon Judkins ran for almost 1,600 yards a year ago. So why, when we look up here a third of the way into the season, has Ole Miss struggled to run the football so much?
Yeah, I think, talking to the people up here and at least watching the film, the offensive line has not been as dominant. dominant, or has been effective, I should say. I don't know if they were dominant, but they were third in the country, as you mentioned, last year. They haven't been as effective with that. To me, whatever reason, Junkins doesn't look quite as explosive. This offense is averaging just over 100 yards less per game than they did a year ago. I mean, that's substantial. And look, they're missing Mingo, and they had a better receiving core. I know they're beat up a little bit, and we'll see who actually plays today. But they have not flowed. They have not been as efficient and just executed at the level you expect Lane Kiffin's spread offensive attack to execute at.
People ask me what my biggest concern is in this game. I give them three letters, RPO. What does the RPO game look like for Ole Miss? It's been a problem for LSU.
Well, I mean, you're playing a young kid. You're playing a young kid at Weeks at linebacker who has been just tremendous, and I think above his age and rank and what have you, and age in terms of maturity and playing the run, but he's still learning to play the RPO in the SEC. And then I think with Brooks out, and you're looking at we know Perkins isn't a great cover guy, and then, Burns and some of the safeties have had some issues with the RPO, and Brian Kelly mentioned the problems they were having at halftime in the Arkansas game. Ole Miss is better at that. They miss Mingo, who's really, really good at this, but they haven't executed at a high level. I think for Lane Kiffin, for me, I got to get that run game and get Dart established, because in order to get that matchups that I want on the back end, those man matchups, and I want to see if I can force them into mistakes or force them in man matchups where I'm just going to win some of these things. I got to get Dart established as a runner. I get him established as a runner, and then I bring out the RPOs. And I think they're going to try to get back to basics. You're going to see a lot of motion, a lot of movement, and get that zone read going with Junkins and Dart.
Rotations at two positions that we'll watch today. Number one, they get Omar Spates back at linebacker. Brian Kelly said that he is not ready to play a full game, and we've seen, Weeks really make some nice plays, so we'll see the rotation there. And then on the defensive interior, Gordy, Jordan Jefferson really had a nice game a week ago. Mason Smith kind of struggled in that game last week against Arkansas. What do you expect at those two spots?
Yeah, I think you're going to get a fair rotation, and you want to do that against a team like Ole Miss. And he's going to go quick. He's going to go no huddle. It's going to be really difficult to sub in the possession. So I think you'll see them split different series. But I think for Smith, you've got to continue to get him some reps. There's no question. Jefferson's been more effective thus far this season. And then for Spates, I haven't seen him really walk around since Mississippi State. Where is he on that injury? And what can he add? Can he get in there and you maybe get into a three linebacker rotation with Weeks and Penn?
I ain't saying that the quarterback was the problem for Texas A&M because I thought Wegman had played fairly well, but Max Johnson just lit Arkansas up in the first half, 13 of 17, 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, and they scored or missed a field goal on every drive that they had. So Arkansas's defense has been just shredded between the LSU game, the BYU game, and now this first half against Texas A&M. Just thought I'd mention that since I know that you're on the road here. So I'm all about updating you, Gordy.
Well, look, I like some of the things Max Johnson did when he was here, and he was put in a lot of difficult spots. So it's good to see him having success there. Hopefully, he doesn't have the success and that kind of success in the last game of the season.
How many times did LSU punt last week? Once? I think it was.
I think once.
Once.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. That means that Arkansas in their last 6 quarters of football has forced 1 punt. That's that's it. Yeah, 17-6 A&M at the break. Gordy, have a safe trip, a good call, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
We're brought to you by Supreme Rice and SupremeRice.com. You can get your Supreme Rice here at Rouse's. The brown, the long grain, the medium grain, or the jasmine. It's perfect for your jambalayas, perfect for your etouffees, for your red beans or white beans and rice. And as we get later in the season, your gumbo's perfect for tailgating. Stop by here at Rouse's and pick up your Supreme Rice. Support our Louisiana farmers. Supreme Rice has been growing, milling, and processing rice down in southwest Louisiana since the 1960s. mid-30s, and to ensure that future generations of farmers are able to benefit as these have. They're part of the Climate Smart program, which encourages emissions reductions and water conservation. For more information, some unique recipes, go to the website at supremerice.com. This is Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. A poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
Otterlocks.
Presented by Excel. For over 30 years, excellence in providing construction engineering and fabrication services. For information, visit us at excelusa.com.
Now, here's Jimmy Ott.
All right, hunker down in Biloxi, where we will be doing Football Sunday tomorrow and live at lunch on Monday. Jimmy out at the Beau Rivage, watching all the games and getting ready for a full slate of college and pro football. Jimmy, good afternoon. How are you?
Oh, dealing with a little sore voice after last night's PJ's game, man.
Nice win for the Knights on the road, man. Nice win down at Ascension Catholic, huh?
Crazy game. Very proud of, man. He played really, really tough. And Troy LaBeouf, the voice of BSN, Ascension Catholic. We couldn't block him last year. We can't block him tonight. So he was really good. So, yeah, had our chance. We were getting ready to stretch the game, and they got a 95-yard scoop and score. And, well, that was their break. And then our break was a fumble in the end zone with 10 seconds to go to preserve the victory.
And 17-14, I believe, was the final.
Yep.
Good job.
Yep.
All right, go to 3-1 on the season. Maybe you could get some pointers to the Florida Gators. They're putting together a drive here late in the first half, but Jimmy, until this drive, Kentucky had more yards on one play than Florida had in 25, 27 minutes of football. I expected a close competitive game here. Kentucky is up 23-0, about a minute to go to the half.
Well, who do you think the most impactful transfer in college football this year? Is it maybe Sam Hartman?
Sure.
I'll put my vote for the kid Davis from Kentucky, coming over from Vanderbilt. He's got 200 yards rushing at before half with a couple of touchdowns. He's got another receiving touchdown on 11 carries, Charlie.
Yeah.
I mean, he is running around. He is a man among boys out there. He had 8 touchdowns coming in, so that's 11 for the year. And this is with Devin Leary struggling this year. I mean, Devin Leary had like 39 touchdowns and 3 interceptions his last year at NC State. And so he has struggled. He's already thrown 5 interceptions. So it's been a transitional issues for him, not for Davis. And he's carried them. And keep in mind, these passing numbers for Leary are against weaker competition. It stops today with Florida and everybody else. We talked about this now. They can win every game, or not except Georgia, and they can lose every game remaining on the schedule. So Davis has really carried them, through Leary's transition. They got a little traction last week. They also had a couple of defensive touchdowns against Vanderbilt, but I like this Kentucky team. They, I'm going to give them a chance for that offensive line as a unit to get better, and I'm going to give Leary a chance because I've seen what he can do already. But Davis is, until they get other places going, they're a dangerous team, Charlie. They're very good on defense. They're very good on defense.
Florida does get a touchdown here. We're under a minute to go to the break, so 23-6 with the extra point to come. You gave out Davis's numbers. Leary, Kentucky was up 23-0 until just a second ago, and Leary had only completed 4 passes. Davis has definitely carried them. The other SEC game is in Arlington. Texas A&M, Max Johnson with a monster first half. All 4 of A&M's drives went deep in Arkansas territory. They got 2 touchdowns, a field goal, missed another field goal. Arkansas has only forced 1 punt in their last 6 quarters. It's not that they haven't moved the ball at all. They had a nice opening drive, but A&M with a 17-6 halftime lead.
They had to settle. Arkansas had to settle for a couple of field goals, and then on 4th down, they stopped Rocket Sanders, near midfield. So, all the big plays that kind of go on Texas A&M's way, and some easing opportunities for A&M as well. But Johnson is, Charlie, sometimes you don't really, max out your ability until kind of something's taken away from you. There's a guy that got playing time as a freshman at LSU, given playing time at Texas A&M. Then it was taken away. If Wegman doesn't get hurt, he's not coming in. He's not playing. So, and he probably had a sense that he's playing with a little different edge, a little element of urgency, and he's better. He's strictly better. And so he's limited in his ability. He's sort of a statue, mobility-wise, got limited arm strength, but he's maxing out right now. He's a better player right now after sitting down for a few weeks.
A couple other games going on right now. Clemson up at Syracuse, undefeated Orange, have turned it over a couple of times. That's really been the difference in Clemson's 21-7 lead.
Don't get me started.
I got to sit through Kentucky.
Game.
You got to sit through Syracuse, okay?
I'm sitting through both.
But Kentucky should be winning. There has been some calls. Syracuse drops a pick 6 early. They're going, what happens after? You had a complete NBA flop or Premier League soccer flop that kept the drive going, that Clemson scored for a touchdown. It's been some really, really tough calls in breaks. And in Babers, help yourself out, Coach. 57 yards. Well, he drills it right between his uprights, but it's about 2 yards short. Well, really, on 4th and 10, 3.5 minutes, punt him down to the 10 and play defense, get the ball back. But, no, the short field turns into another Clemson touchdown. So, whether it's Klubnik played good again. Klubnik was fine last week. He was not the reason they lost to Florida State. And so, he's not Trevor Lawrence. Well, who the hell is? He's not Deshaun Watson. Well, definitely who is, how many of those, do we have floating around? And forget he's a 5-star, but he's playing okay. He's solid, and he's given him solid play the last 2 weeks, and he's been the one piece that's been – they should have beat Florida State. They missed a 29-yard field goal. But he's been solid. But Clemson, I thought they would come out a little bit more hungover from that tough loss and now basically being eliminated from any playoff consideration where they thought they were definitely in the mix. Clemson showed me a little heart and a little pride, but they've got every break in the book in the first half.
A game that I have not seen any of, I imagine you got it on somewhere there. Big surprise in Evanston. Penn State, who was just under a 4-touchdown favorite over Northwestern, is tied at the break 10 apiece. Jimmy, we've seen what's going on at Michigan State, and the Spartans appear to have, they're a man without a country, and now that Tucker's gone, the whole thing seems to be collapsing. At Northwestern, anything but. Pat Fitzgerald had to leave the program early in the month of August, and they don't have a heck of a lot of talent, but they play hard, and they're giving Penn State all they want right now.
Well, if you watch them during week 0, and I was right here at the Beau Rivage before, because that was sort of an appetizer before the LSU-Florida State game, and they looked about as bad as you could possibly look. And so what that did, though, Charlie, was because it's a standalone game, how many people were watching Northwestern Rutgers normally? But on week 0, standalone, a lot of people. And a lot of people, it's just exaggerated their point spread. But, we don't think Iowa's a big win. But it was a whiteout game for Penn State at night prime time last week. And they're just flat. I think they'll handle business a little bit better. They did get a touchdown before half to tie the score. But they came out flat, and it's no crazy bounces or plays back and forth. It's just Northwestern is solid defensively. They are solid defensively, and they just made a couple of plays, but no big long plays, fluke bounces or anything like that. It's just been sort of in the mud, a little bit of lack of emotion for Penn State in the first half. And I think they'll correct it. I don't think they're covering, but I think they'll correct it and at least win the game outright.
Let's talk about some of the games in the 2:30 window. Georgia is at Auburn. The Bulldogs are a little bit better than a 2-touchdown favorite there. Ranked matchup with Kansas and Texas in Austin. Texas got the big one with Oklahoma next week, but they got to deal with the undefeated Jayhawks today. 2 of the games at the 2:30 that we're looking at.
Yeah, Texas, Oklahoma is the big touchdown Colorado. So, which I had the over and now 34-13 now with the extra point coming. How good is Kansas? I think, they start off real good, and then their lack of depth and roster caught up with them in the second half last year. But, man, that's a major rebuilding job, and I think he has gotten, improved that roster even a little bit better this year. They got some guys on defense that could run, and that's where they were just so bad last year was defensively. So they have, they did have defensive scores last week. And I'm just curious to see because Jalen Daniels is really, really good as a quarterback, and I like their offensive system as well. Texas is one of those complete teams that Texas is in this wide open year in college football where there's actual legitimate competitive balance. Texas is one of those teams that could be there, at the end and in the playoff and even compete for a national title. So I'm undecided on that one. It does seem like a lot of points with Oklahoma up next week. And as much as people have kind of been criticizing Matt Campbell, he kind of has a way of hanging in the Oklahoma games. Whether it's upset the Sooners in Norman a few years ago, whether it's having the ball in a one-possession game of the Big 12 championship, the COVID year. I know he's not quite as high. His stock is not quite as high as it used to be, but I wouldn't be shocked if they're competitive. And I want to see which Oklahoma team it was. The one that's been scoring all kinds of points and Gabriel's lighting people up, or last week where they did very little on offense against Cincinnati in Cincinnati's Big 12 debut. That's a lot of points, against Iowa State, who Campbell's teams usually are very comfortable competing against Oklahoma.
Last one before we get to LSU. Game day in Durham for the first time ever. Notre Dame trying to shake off just a gut punch of a loss to Ohio State on the last play of the game or what should have been the last play of the game last week against Ohio State. Duke 4-0 and about a 5.5-point underdog in Durham this afternoon.
Well, I'm 0 for 1 on my 2 first half bets today with Syracuse against Clemson. So we might go a little stronger on Duke in that one. I think it's a great game. Elko is as hot of a who's hotter than him in college football. I mean, they won 9 games in his first year. But Charlie, when we were doing our conference previews before the year, I looked at their depth chart, and it's just 19 returning starters, a really good dual threat quarterback in Riley Leonard, and juniors and seniors everywhere on that 2D. And I mean, and they showed their maturity last week in a complete look-ahead spot by annihilating UConn on the road. So I'm looking for a great game, man. And I think it's kind of, you saw what the transition from Brian Kelly is at Notre Dame. I think they're a little bit better roster with Marcus Williams, but I think he's lacking. Whether he burned his 3 timeouts or having 10 players on the field in the last 2 plays of scrimmage. I mean, no, you can't do that. And also not being a little bit more aggressive to try and end the game with his offense, who had been really hot, and with Sam Hartman. So you see a little bit of both with them, but I love Notre Dame's team. I think this is the best Notre Dame team. Man, we're going way back. I mean, to like the 80s or 90s. But this is a brutally tough spot for them to go into Duke. And I think Duke will get on them early, but Notre Dame probably win out in a close one late.
LSU, a small favorite up in Oxford. Lane Kiffin's group, I thought, had a chance last week. They had the lead at the half in Tuscaloosa. They had been pointing towards that game, obviously. They came up short in the second half, and they got to try to bounce back from that and get themselves straight. LSU, an unbalanced team, really good offensively, really leaky defensively. How you see the matchup?
It's not your typical Ole Miss Lane Kiffin team. I mean, they're not high tempo. They're not like explosive play after explosive play, which we saw in his very first game. He showed up on campus at Oxford, and that COVID year against Florida. I can just remember just play after play after play. Pits for Florida just was too much for them that day. But this is not that. We've seen coaches come in this league and want to go high tempo, and then they realize I got no defensive front by the middle of the season. He's shied off of his tempo. And so whether it's offensive line play, whether it's darts, just being average, or their lack of tempo, kind of catching teams off guard, whatever it is, I mean, this is not a typical Lane Kiffin defense. You say they had the lead, 7-6. How many before this year? How many 7-6 games at half is Ole Miss playing it? None. And so this is a weird year for Ole Miss. With that being said, I've been in that stadium plenty of times, and they usually have a little extra juice for LSU. And I've seen Ole Miss teams less talented than this one, give LSU all they can handle or flat out beat them. So, hey, if LSU plays their best, they'll probably be okay. If they play their average game, that's going to depend on Ole Miss and probably a little bit on Dart to see if he can make some plays. But I like LSU, but probably got to play good. They got to execute to win this game tonight.
Bragging on Max Johnson, his first pass of the second half, a pick 6. So Arkansas pulls within 4, 17-13 on the very first play of the second half. Jimmy, who's bringing us?
That's the Max Johnson I love. There we go.
Who's bringing us Auto Locks?
Excel, man. Construction, maintenance, turnaround, fabrication, disaster recovery, project management, all with award-winning safety. For more information, excelusa.com. That's all the voice I got, Charlie. Get down here.
All right. Tomorrow, Football Sunday, I'll be down there with Jimmy and Rohan and the whole crew of experts at the Beau Rivage tomorrow for Football Sunday at 10 a.m. Jimmy, have a good day.
See you.
We will take a break. We come back. Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl will have our scouting report on Ole Miss. We are at Rouse's, Burbank and Lee. Stop by for all of your pregame gathering stuff, your beer, your wine, your spirits, all of your food, and, of course, a great place to stop in when you're heading in for LSU game days to go tailgating. This is Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
Life in Louisiana is a song. A symphony of sound, colors, and movement. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day Scouting Report.
Presented by Demco. Demco, powering lives, brightening the future.
And welcome back. Eagle 98.1 Game Day here at Rouse's on Burbank and Lee. LSU-Ole Miss, 5 p.m. We're counting you down to the Tigers' trip to Oxford, the Magnolia Bowl. Time to get a scouting report on those Rebs. Welcome in Jim Nagy from the Reese's Senior Bowl. Jim, we appreciate the time, as always, on another week. How are you?
I'm doing great. I was at this game last year over there in Baton Rouge, so it's going to be cool to see the progress. This is around the time last year where Jaden Daniels, in my mind, really started to come into his own for the Tigers. So it'll be cool to see him up there in Oxford.
It is definitely one that many remember around here, and I think I feel pretty confident in saying everyone hopes it goes the exact same way that it went last year. Maybe minus the fast Ole Miss start. Maybe LSU can just get out right on, right as the ball's kicked and get out to a fast start themselves. But yes, definitely the breakout game for Jaden Daniels last season. When looking at the Rebs, we're going to do something different. We're going to start on the defensive side of the ball because a lot of eyes are on the trenches in this one, whether it's the struggles that Ole Miss has had up front going against LSU's defensive line or LSU's offensive line, which has kind of started to come into its own here over the last 4 weeks, going up against the Ole Miss defensive line. And I know y'all have y'all's eyes on 3 different guys up front for the Rebels. Let's start with Cedric Johnson.
Yeah, start first by saying that Ole Miss had the most players on our preseason watch list. They had 20 players, which sounds crazy. Not saying we didn't think they were the best team in the SEC. They just had a bunch of transfers. They had a bunch of guys that really had to prove themselves. So we were kind of taking a wait and see approach with these guys. But yeah, Cedric's actually a guy we've been watching since high school here in Mobile. He went to Davidson High School here in Mobile, Alabama. Really versatile defensive lineman. Probably more of an edge player at the next level. He's just a shade under 6'3", 265 pounds. Played hurt last year. So last year's tape wasn't as good as it's looked early this year. But like a mid-round type draft pick, really high character guy. He's the type of guy that Ole Miss has brought to the SEC media days in past years. So can get it done in the run in the pass. He's a good all-around football player. So I'm just glad he's back healthy because he's playing better this year than he did a year ago.
And then, of course, next to him, we have J.J. Pegues as well, who LSU fans also should be pretty familiar with, as they've seen him at another school here in the conference.
Yeah, former Auburn tight end, so really unique athlete. He is, he's not the tallest guy in the world. It's surprising me that anyone ever recruited this guy to play tight end. He's only 6'1" and change, but a really good athlete. He's done some things as like a goal line fullback, running back in the past. I mean, this guy is a big athlete. So he's got pass rush ability. They're going to have to, make sure they keep an eye on him because he's athletic enough to really come off twists and really rush off of other people. And then when Jaden gets flushed out of the pocket, this is the guy you'll see chasing him down. So they're going to have to keep an eye, know where Pegues is later tonight.
I liked when Auburn threw him the ball. That was always entertaining. Jared Ivey off the edge for Ole Miss. Maybe not the fastest of start there, but does have the one sack already this season, and he'll be trying to take his hacks against the two tackles at LSU tonight.
Yeah, really long edge player. Almost 6'6", 280 pounds, has long arms. A little tight athletically. Like you're not going to see this guy dropping into space out there on the edge. I mean, he's going to be moving forward when you see him. They're going to want him rushing the passer and disrupting things with his length. So it's a unique group. All three guys we talked about have really different body types and skill sets. So they're going to pose different matchup problems for this LSU offensive line. The tackles especially are going to have to know how to attack these guys. And I'm sure they did through tape study this week. But, three really different players.
Certainly a battle that many are looking forward to there. Look, LSU really with Malik Neighbors, with Brian Thomas over the last couple of weeks, both of them have kind of feasted as the LSU passing game has really taken a step forward, it feels like. DeAndre Prince at Ole Miss, he's going to be kind of tasked with slowing some of that down as he's one of the best cover guys in the Rebel secondary.
Yeah, we did a lot of work on DeAndre last year. I was actually watching him at that LSU game pretty closely that day. He's a 6-foot corner, and he can really, really run. He's probably going to be a high 4.3, low 4.4 guy. So if Neighbors, gets a step and gets deep on him, he is a guy that can recover. Not the biggest guy. He's only about 180 pounds, but he's tough enough. He'll come up and tackle. But yeah, that's gonna be a really good matchup. You're not going to beat him vertically. I think that the best chance is to get him with quick hitters and let guys try to shake him and run after the catch. But, he'll be a late draftable player. That's kind of where we had him graded last year. He'll be in that day 3 mix for most NFL teams just because it's hard to find 6-foot corners that can run like he can run. But that should be a good matchup for Neighbors.
Talking with Jim Nagy of the Reese's Senior Bowl. He's the executive director over there down in Mobile. He's with us every week here on Eagle 98.1 Game Day, scouting the competition. You can follow him on Twitter at JimNagy_SB. Jim, I want to flip sides of the ball a little bit, but kind of continue with the battle in the trenches theme that we've had here. Mentioned kind of earlier in this interview, Ole Miss, they've struggled up front, but one of the guys they lean on the most is Jeremy James on that offensive line.
Yeah, Jeremy's played a lot of football for them. They've got a veteran group. They've got a lot of experience up there. It hasn't really come together yet. They can't get that run game really clicking. Jeremy was the highest graded guy we had over the summer. Again, a late draftable player. They had an offensive lineman in our game last year, Nick Broker, who was a 7th-round pick to the Buffalo Bills and actually got cut at the very end of training camp and then claimed by the Houston Texans. So he's on the Houston Texans active roster right now. Good player. I thought Broker would go in like the 5th-round range last year, and he went in the 7th. So that being the case, James is in that 7th-round priority free agent area, but a big guy, big, strong guy. very similar to what they've played with on the offensive line over the last few years. Not a high-end athlete, but a big, tough guy that's played a lot of football. So that's going to be a key. They have to establish the run with Judkins. They have to have some balance, which they haven't had so far. They certainly didn't have it last week against Alabama. So that's going to be a key for them.
So you mentioned Quinshon Judkins there, obviously, and everyone's well aware of him. He burst onto the scene last year as a freshman in the league. Hasn't quite been able to get it going there. Has dealt with some injuries, and in the time he was out with injuries, they turned to Ulysses Bennett, who I know y'all have had an eye on there. We can talk about him as a player, but, I mean, is that maybe somebody also they could turn to churn things up there behind a struggling offensive line?
They certainly should, in my opinion. When you're struggling to get things blocked, I mean, you need guys that can create on their own, and Ulysses Bentley certainly can. A little bit of a change of pace from Judkins. Judkins is a more kind of straightforward, between the tackles, downhill runner, whereas Bentley's got a lot of shake in his game, really good athlete, really smooth runner. We went back to his SMU tape from a couple of years ago when he was a freshman. Guy almost ran for 1,000 yards his freshman year at SMU, and he's got a different gear. And this guy's a home run hitter. He's got a number of 50, 60, 80-yard runs over his career once you get him in space. So I was surprised last week that, Judkins came back and is getting more healthy, and now Bentley's carries are going down because he had that one game a couple weeks ago against Georgia Tech where he busted out for like 60 yards on 6 carries and looked like he was a big play weapon for him, and then they kind of went away. So, going back to what I originally said, if they're struggling to block it up front, I mean, this is the guy that can create, even when you get some penetration, across the line of scrimmage, he can make things happen. So I think if Ole Miss were smart, they try to get this guy going.
Tigers and the Rebs this evening from Oxford, Mississippi, the Magnolia Bowl. So on ESPN, Jim Nagy giving you the scouting report on the Rebels here on Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Jim, we appreciate the time as always. Thank you, and we'll do it again next week.
All right, Matt. Have a good game.
Yes, sir. That is your scouting report. We're going to grab a break, come back on the other side with more. This is Eagle 98.1 Game Day, presented by your Super Chevy dealers.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. A poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
Make this summer your backyard party year with Chris's Specialty Foods. Wings, burgers, brisket, steak, and boudin, plus great Cajun side dishes. We do all the prep, and you enjoy laughing with friends and family. Chris's Specialty Foods, Millerville, New Orleans, Prairieville, and Frisco.
Everybody loves Chris's authentic Cajun meat.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's
98.1.
The First South Farm Credit College Football Scoreboard. First South Farm Credit, financing farms and land since 1916.
We start in Lexington, Kentucky, where one of the longest-standing records in the league is in jeopardy. The rushing one-game total in Southeastern Conference history is 321 yards. Darren McFadden is a name you'll remember. Frank Mordecai.
Yeah, anybody got that one?
No, from Vanderbilt. They both rushed for 321 yards. Mordecai did it back in 78. McFadden, I think, was in 07. Ray Davis has 247 yards, and he's running through holes that Kentucky is creating the size of racetracks in Kentucky, since we're talking about the Bluegrass State here. It's 23-7 Kentucky early in the third quarter. I think Davis is going to get this record if this keeps up. The other SEC game going on right now in Arlington, Texas A&M leads Arkansas 20-13. Max Johnson had a huge first half for Texas A&M, but threw a pick six to open the second half that got Arkansas within a touchdown. Hogs with a drive in A&M territory down around the 30-yard line. About 8 minutes to go in the third quarter there. USC, number 8, Trojans lead Colorado 34-14. That game is at halftime. Caleb Williams already has 4 touchdown passes for USC. Number 6, Penn State, an early touchdown here in the third quarter. They lead Northwestern 17-10. A very close game there. Minnesota leading UL Lafayette 21-17. That game is late in the third quarter in Minneapolis. UConn leading Utah State 17-14. Clemson leading Syracuse 21-7. Cole Klubnik has thrown a couple of touchdown passes there. 2 key turnovers for Syracuse in the first half. They're just underway in the second half at the Carrier Dome, or whatever they call it now. Tulane leading UAB 21-20. That game has just started in the third quarter. James Madison leads South Alabama 24-7 at the half. Buffalo and Akron tied at 10 late in the third quarter, and Eastern Michigan and Central Michigan are tied at 7 at the end of 1. Game starting here at 1 o'clock, Virginia and Boston College. At 1:30, Miami of Ohio and Kent State. 2 o'clock, Arizona State and Cal kick off from Berkeley. The 2:30 window led off by number 1 Georgia at Auburn. Bulldogs a 2-touchdown favorite there. Number 2 Michigan going on the road for the first time. They're in Lincoln to take on Nebraska. Matchup of ranked teams in Austin, Texas. Number 3 Texas hosts number 24 Kansas. Both teams 4-0. Indiana is at Maryland. Illinois at Purdue. Wagner at Rutgers. Bowling Green at Georgia Tech. Houston at Texas Tech. Baylor on the road at UCF. That's a conference game, by the way.
Yes, it is.
Arkansas State is at UMass. South Florida is at Navy. Old Dominion at Marshall, Ball State at Western Michigan, Northern Illinois at Toledo. 3 o'clock kick for number 23 Missouri at Vanderbilt. Tigers a 2-touchdown favorite here. They win. LSU will be looking at an undefeated Missouri Tiger team next week in Columbia.
Who had that one on the bingo card?
Probably not. Boise State and Memphis, Hawaii at UNLV, New Mexico at Wyoming. 5:30 kickoff. Number 9 Oregon on the road at Stanford. Ducks are off next week. So are the Huskies, and then they match up in 2 weeks.
That's
going to be a great game.
So good.
Iowa State is at number 14, Oklahoma. Again, Oklahoma's got Texas next week. So that's a 6 o'clock kick. The rest of the 6 o'clock window, East Carolina at Rice, Abilene Christian at North Texas, Coastal Carolina at Georgia Southern, Troy at Georgia State, Texas State at Southern Miss, Utah Tech at Colorado State. Big one in Durham, 6:30 kickoff for number 11 Notre Dame and number 17 Duke. Also a 6:30 kick for South Carolina and number 21 Tennessee. This is a wild one last year when South Carolina scored 63 points. Michigan State is at Iowa. Iowa's a 10-point favorite because Michigan State's a dumpster fire right now. I don't know. Is Iowa going to score 10 points?
Corso said they were going to score 20 this morning on game day, like it was 40.
I think this game's going to finish 3-2.
It could.
SMU and Charlotte. Pittsburgh is at Virginia Tech. This is a 7 o'clock game. The rest of the 7 o'clock window is West Virginia TCU, App State at UL Monroe, San Diego State at Air Force. 8 o'clock kickoff from Davis Wade Stadium. Number 12 Alabama visits Mississippi State. 9 o'clock kickoff for number 7 Washington at Arizona, and the late game is Nevada at number 25 Fresno State. And that is your college football scoreboard. You want to know about the golf?
Not really. I mean, I saw Rory was trying to fight Joe LaCava earlier.
The Ryder Cup has not been going well for the United States since the very beginning. And with play complete on day number 2, Europe leads the USA 10.5 to 5.5. The biggest last day deficit that the United States has ever overcome was 4 points.
Yeah.
So the odds are definitely against the Americans tomorrow. We're here at Rouse's. Again, all of your game day items, come here and get them at Rouse's. The Rouse's brand, you know, they sell so many of the same products as the national brands, but they do it at a much more competitive price. Rouse's, most of their products right here at home, but they also travel the world as well. When you see the Rouse's name on it, you know that it's good. Rouse's here at the corner of Burbank and Lee. This is Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance shops, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Life in Louisiana is a song. A symphony of sound, colors, and movement. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it.
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Recruiting
with Shay Dixon from On3 Sports. Presented by Ralph's Market. Ralph's Market, where quality and customer service are a family tradition.
And we bring in our friend Shay Dixon from On3. Shay, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Charlie?
Great. I want to start off with a question. It's not necessarily LSU related. It's just recruiting related. We're watching Arkansas and A&M right now. This game's at a neutral site. And, of course, Georgia and Florida play at a neutral site every year. A&M and Arkansas will probably move this game back to campus year after next. There's a big movement to do that. Assuming they play every year when the conference ever decides what they're going to do scheduling-wise. And Kirby Smart has been making a lot of noise about wanting to move Georgia and Florida back on campus. It's the recruiting ramifications that these coaches are worried about because they are so extremely restricted in what they can do in these weekends when they're not on campus. So you tell me, are these legitimate concerns, and do you think these games eventually move back to campus sites?
I think it's legitimate concerns for sure. Obviously, there is the benefit that these ABs and everyone involved in scheduling ways of playing neutral site games and, getting, whether it's Atlanta or Houston, New Orleans, certainly LSU fans can pack those buildings out. I do like seeing those matchups. Here's what the coaches have the issue with, is that you can't do anything beyond the lead tickets for a recruit at the door. So when Kirby made a big fuss about this, he said, all right, this is one of our biggest games of the year. It's at a neutral site, and all we're allowed to tell our top recruits, who we could be battling with Florida, is we left you 2 tickets at the gate and, enjoy the game, was his quote. And never can they talk to them. They can't go on the sidelines. They can't come in a locker room. So what Kirby's point is, and it's been talked about at a lot of these SEC meetings over the years, is if you've got 3 or 4 marquee weekends a year where you play a good team and it's going to be a great environment, and you take it away and say it's a neutral site, and then you add on top of that and say, oh, and you can't talk to a recruit or have a recruit there on the sidelines or interact with them at all, that it puts you at a disadvantage. So it's whatever side of the coin you're on, I can kind of get both of them. I lean towards it being a little bit of a disadvantage if, for instance, LSU is playing a neutral site game every single year against a conference opponent where you can't host recruits and talk to them on the sidelines and do everything you normally would when you host a recruit and not just leave them a couple of tickets for them to go in and watch the game. So I'm on their side. And, Charlie, gosh, they've changed every rule under the book, or at least every time we turn around, there's a brand new wave of rules with recruiting in the portal and NIL and everything else. I don't think this is a rule that lasts forever, especially if they're going to sit on neutral site games and not move them all back to campuses.
Well, Jay, call me selfish, but as long as LSU's not playing one of these games, I hope they make those other teams stay at the neutral sites. If it's gonna hurt them in recruiting, as long as it doesn't affect LSU, hey, I'm fine with it. Let's talk about where LSU is with 2 consecutive road games. It's going to be a long time before they get back on campus. How do the Tigers sit as we approach midseason?
Yeah, they still have a top 10 class sitting on 24 commits. They had Xavier Atkins, a 4-star linebacker, is up from Jonesboro Hodge area and moved to Houston for his senior year and had made a bunch of visits to A&M. And there was a point where folks kind of thought he flipped to A&M. He doubled down and reaffirmed that he's solid with LSU, which is good because now they put together a really nice linebacker class. They've got some nice linebackers on roster, so you're building good depth there. But this is an odd stretch, right? It doesn't happen a ton where LSU's back-to-back on the road, and what it does is puts about a month in, right? I mean, between when they played Arkansas a week ago and then when they will play Auburn in October, between home games where you can have kids on campus. And that's what's made Arkansas, that game, and then even more so maybe this Auburn game, 2 of the real marquee kind of visitor weekends that they're pushing for and having to do it all in a pretty short amount of time, saying, hey, look, I know everyone's high school schedules are hectic. I know everyone is planning on visiting different places at different times, but we need you to get in for one of these games. And so far they did a good job with Arkansas. I presume they would do the same with Auburn, but it's all sort of part of, even in the offseason, Charlie, they're navigating that schedule, knowing, all right, which weekends can we get in? And stretches like this where you play Ole Miss and then you play Missouri make these 2 weekends that kind of are sandwiched around them even more paramount.
Right now, who would you consider LSU's top 3 uncommitted prospects on the board?
Uncommitted prospects. It's tough because we are so late in the game to where there are not a lot of uncommitted guys left out there. They're pressing for flips from guys like Gabriel Relaford, who's committed to A&M, another A&M guy, Dominic McKinley, both Louisiana defensive linemen. Ole Miss, in fact, they offered one of their commitments out of New Orleans this week, the corner, D.B. Causey. So I almost feel like they're going to be heavier on guys that they're going to need to flip than necessarily uncommitted guys they could reel in. Now, there are some out there. I would say that a notable one recently was Sean Washington, who's coming from out of East Mississippi Community College. He picked up a Mississippi State offer today. LSU offered this past week, but he's a big defensive lineman out of New Orleans who prepped at Warren Easton, is now in playing. I guess he went to Georgia for a year, hit the portal, then spent a year this season at East Mississippi Community College, and then it's going to bounce back from there. And I think it brings up an interesting topic that not many people have talked about, but I did say this in the beginning. I wondered if this would happen when these kids from big schools, Charlie, let's say a Georgia or any Power 5 high level school, hit the portal, and their options aren't as good as maybe they were coming out of high school, or maybe just at that moment they're not as good as what they'd want them to be. Teams are filling up. Teams might not need you at that position. And you're getting offers from lower level teams than you might be used to. JUCO is going to benefit from that. Like right now, Hutchinson, a number of schools in Mississippi have guys who are either committed or being pretty heavily recruited by schools because they left their four-year institution and said, I don't love my options. I'll just go play JUCO for a year and put out another year of film, keep developing, and I bet more teams will want me when I come back out. And that seems to be the case for almost every kid I've looked at.
Shay, I've been waiting once we have enough of a sample size to get hard numbers since the transfer portal became open, basically, without having to sit out. How many players went into the transfer portal from a Power 5 school that ended up at a non-Power 5 school? How many went from a Division I or an FCS school that ended up maybe at an FBS school that ended up at an FCS school? How many of these kids put themselves in the transfer portal and didn't get another scholarship offer, period? And we probably need a little bit more data before we can make any assumptions on that, but the numbers, I think, are higher than people realize.
They are, and I think you're right. We need more data. I've read many people say this is something over, given kids are in college for 4 to 5 years, that maybe after 5 years we can look back and say, okay, here's exactly how it worked. Here's how it started trending in the end, if it sort of self-corrects itself at some point. But I would say right now, and this is pretty much a numbers game at times, but there are more guys who leave a school and drop down in competition than guys that leave a school and jump up. And that's just kind of the reality of the situation, I guess. But that's been the case so far because so many guys are leaving a school in large part because they want more playing time. Well, if you want more playing time, you're probably not going to get it at a school that's better than the one you're already at. So the early stages of the portal have been, I think, dominated more so by guys who say, hey, I want playing time, and then that puts you at a school that's at a lower level than the school you were enrolled at.
All right, Shay, what's coming up? What are you guys tracking today on 3?
Well, Ole Miss has a number of visitors in. LSU's always recruiting Mississippi, so it would be nice for them to have a good showing there. LSU's already flipped one Ole Miss commit in Joe Cryer out of Natchitoches Central. Let's see if they can't do it again with B.B. Causey over at Kennedy in New Orleans. But I say this all the time to you, Charlie. I don't think one game ever sways a kid from how they feel about a school or the trajectory or any of that. But if LSU can win this game and keep pace with Bama and A&M right now as the 3 teams who would be without a loss if everything trends kind of how it is or expected to this weekend, if LSU can get out of that without a loss, still be in that race, that puts you on a good track to really have a shot at Atlanta. And that, in the end, I think if you can sell back-to-back SEC West trips or back-to-back or SEC West champs, back-to-back double-digit win seasons, that's the kind of stuff that kids, recruits, see and say, oh, Brian Kelly in his first 2 seasons, he and his staff have turned around a team that went 500 in back-to-back seasons, had a losing record one of those years for the first time since 1999. And they made the SEC West, won the SEC West twice, or perhaps got to double-digit wins both times. So I just feel like this game today, Charlie, I know it's early. I know the West is wide open. I think this game is really critical, both for Ole Miss and LSU.
Shay, we always appreciate it. Have a good afternoon, and we'll talk to you next week when the Tigers be early next week against Missouri.
I'll be up. Don't worry. Give me a shout.
All right. Thanks a lot, Shay Dixon from On 3. Still to come here, the guys from OTB and AFR. Their thoughts on today's game between LSU and Ole Miss. Le Bears countdown to kickoff now at about 3 hours and 36 minutes. Here from Rouse's Lee at Burbank, Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, in Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years.
Eagle 98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
Off the bench on Game Day. Presented by Shell. Shell is the rhythm of Louisiana. Off the Bench is heard weekday mornings from 7 to 10 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Now from OTB, Jacob Hester and T-Bob Hebert.
Let's get into some numbers because, Jake, like I said, week 4 is when I'm going to start to almost daily sign on CFBstats.com, what I think is the single best stat website in the world.
Yep.
So week 4, I feel comfortable diving in there because, like we said, we have pretty good sample size. Both these teams played 3 pretty good teams and one opponent that was far below their level. Okay, well, let's see what has gone on thus far. We'll go through offense, defense, and see if anything else jumps on the page. So offensively, the highest scoring offense in the SEC, your LSU Tigers, 42.8 points per game. But, yeah, you know, they suck, right? I don't know. Ole Miss, second in the conference at 42 points per game. When it comes to total yardage, once again, your LSU Tigers, first in the SEC at 530 yards a game. Ole Miss, third at 470 per. Rushing offense, I mean, does it even feel like LSU's run the ball that well this year?
It feels like they hadn't run it very often.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Right.
Like, and they've really picked up. I mean, you look at the last couple games. Yes, the stats have been nicer, but
yes,
LSU third in rush offense in the league, averaging 191 per game.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, this is what's shocking. They've been first in this list the last few years under Lane. They're all the way down at number 10 here. They're sub 150.
Yeah, Jackson Dart being their leading rusher right now.
Passing offense. Shout out Spencer Rattler. South Carolina, first overall, 340 yards per game. LSU.
Real quick on Spencer Rattler. I mean, everybody watched that documentary when he was coming out, and he's like, who is this guy? This guy is just a bad. Whatever he had to go through to get to the point where he's at now, like we need to highlight his growth and his maturity, because he was a turd and a half back then. And now, I mean, you see somebody who is taking shots, basically every drop back, not blaming anybody, staying tall in the pocket, delivering the football. I mean, he has come
He's completing
full circle.
really like 80% of his passes.
And taking hits almost every single time.
And I mean, to be fair, with a bit of aged perspective, who among us wouldn't come off as a huge a-hole if you were filmed at 18 years old? Like, maybe I wouldn't have been as a-hole in the same way he would have been, but I would have been, like, I was an a-hole. Every 18-year-old is. I hate them. They're the scum of the earth. I see them every day walking around on LSU's campus. I just want to slap them all upside the head and tell them to get a job. Do something,
And they're trying
bums.
to get a job.
All they're doing is just playing beer die and chasing skirts, okay? Go work with your hands. Go quarry some rock or something, right? Yeah.
Get a little callous.
Yeah, get a little callous. Let me see them hands, boy. Look pretty soft. My hands are callous from typing, okay? All day, every day. Real work. So South Carolina is actually first. LSU, once again, I just can't imagine that we have reached a point where LSU is going to rank first in every single statistical offensive category, and people just complain constantly about the offense every day. Joe Burrow, as I said, Joe Burrow broke all of your minds.
Let's go back. Imagine the year. It's 2016, Baton Rouge. And when, you had Danny Etling playing quarterback. And look, I like Danny Etling. I thought he was actually a pretty good college football player. Or if you want to go back even farther than that, when you had Anthony Jennings playing quarterback. Like, remember those feelings? Remember those feelings. Okay, so LSU right now, like T-Bob's laying out, has an advantage offensively on almost every opponent that they play.
Yes.
And it might not be perfect. No offense is going to be perfect. 2019 was as close as you'll ever get to a perfect offense, but you have to remember what that team was and who they had out there.
Yeah, and it's one of those deals where, like, it's the whole reason why I think you have a very good chance to beat Alabama is because you're the only one that can handle that front seven. Don't laugh at Daniel Basham's comment. Is it T-Bob's real reason asking to check 18-year-old hands to see if they're bigger than his?
You know me too well.
Okay, relax. So LSU second. Ole Miss fourth in the conference, averaging 323 through the air game. Let's flip it defensively, and, well, this is where neither LSU nor Ole Miss score very high. Ole Miss eighth in the conference, giving up 18 points again. LSU, though, 11th, giving up 25 per. That must get better. Total defense, so this is the yardage. Ole Miss is 10th. LSU is 11th. Pass defense, Ole Miss is 8th. LSU is 9th. Rush defense, Ole Miss is 11th. LSU is 12th. So essentially, both these teams, the same defensively, and LSU, kind of the same offensively, with LSU just being like a bit of an elite touch above what Ole Miss is doing offensively right now.
If you were to do a self-scout, right, let's flip it. You're Ole Miss. You're trying to prepare for LSU. I would try to establish the run game early if I'm Ole Miss for a couple of reasons. One, because that's who you are. That's what you've recruited to. That's what you've built this roster around, and it is your DNA and identity, and it hasn't really gotten started yet, okay?
No.
But also, I want to keep 5 and 8 and everybody on that sideline as much as I possibly can. I don't want to have them come out there and be explosive because I think they have advantages on that side of the football. So if I'm Lane and I'm that offensive staff, I realize it hasn't worked to the level it's worked in the past as far as running the football. Man, I am, even like if I feel like I'm hitting my head against a brick wall for a little bit, like 3 series to open the game, I'm going to see if I can get some things going because they understand what advantages LSU has when they're on the field. So if I'm self-scouting, that's what you have to get done. And LSU has given up yards on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, that's their worst metric, 12th in the SEC, giving up over 130 per game. Here is the dumbest stat that I found all day. What's one of the most important statistics right behind turnover margin in all of football? Third down percentage, right? We've seen how it's really affected this LSU defense at times this year, and it's made things feel awful and horrible and really and led to close games and, well, even a lost game against Florida State. What do y'all think, and I don't know, if y'all have already looked at the paper, then just tell me when I play this game, but what do you think LSU's converting right now on third down?
On third down?
Offensively?
Yes, offensively.
40%.
Okay.
59%.
Okay.
I'd say right at 50.
So 59 is a ridiculous guess. Like, that is really stupid, but it's 58.
Okay.
They are converting 58% of their third downs.
I felt good about 50. I was like, that's a high number.
That's what I'm saying. Do you realize how ridiculous it is? I'm pretty sure they're like 7 percentage points above the second place team there. It is unreal. They're second in the conference in red zone touchdown percentage. Another uber important stat. Do you finish off drives? And actually, the biggest gap statistically in this bunch are those two right there. LSU converts 58%. Ole Miss converts 35%. Do not let them convert on third down. LSU is second in the conference, scoring in the red zone, scoring touchdowns 73% of the time. Ole Miss is 12th, scoring touchdowns just 57% of the time. This is already an LSU defense that is shown to be bend but don't break. Red zone stands, that'll be critical this week. And then obviously getting off the field on third down is going to be critical this week. So there it is. We got some more stuff we can maybe go through, but I thought that those third down numbers were shocking.
Yeah, again, like when you throw 50% out there, that feels, now it's always the goal. Every offense coordinator at the beginning of the year, beginning of the week, we got to be 50% on third down. It's like, yeah, coach, it's really easily said. But if you get to 50%, any offensive coordinator in the country would be like, that was a win for us.
And both teams are bad at allowing opponents to do it because
LSU's
12th, 44% given up, and Ole Miss is 10th, 42% given up. So still on the whole, a strength for this LSU team.
It was a humid day, barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years.
Eagle 98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
After further review on Game Day, presented by the Grove Recovery Center. The Grove Recovery Center. Recovery designed for you. After further review is heard weekday afternoons from 3 to 6 on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Now from AFR, here's Matt Muscona.
The Bears count down to kickoff about 3 hours and 20 minutes from right now. LSU and Ole Miss from Oxford. We bring in Matt Muscona. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Hey, guys. Doing good. How are y'all?
Good. Fantastic. We're not Florida Gators. That's that's a little bit better. Yeah, it's been pretty bad. Matt, I've been kind of, I guess, polling people, staffers and, other media guys about why Ole Miss's offense looks different this year than it usually does under Lane Kiffin, specifically about their problems running the football. When you look at them, what do you see different and why it has gone this way so far?
It's because their offensive line stinks. I mean, if you had any doubt about that, I know you watched the Tulane game, Hanny. I mean, it was a little stunning to watch that game down at Ullman and to watch the amount of success Tulane on both lines of scrimmage had against Ole Miss. And I get it. Tulane is a fine football team. They won the Cotton Bowl last year. But you're still talking about a team from the American and a team from the SEC. There shouldn't be a comp. And Ole Miss went to the portal. I believe 3 of their starters on the line this year are from the portal and guys with a lot of experience. But I don't know if it's just they're not playing well together early in the season or if they just missed on some portal transfers. But that offensive line is just not good. Quinshon Judkins didn't forget how to run the football and be really dynamic. Their line stinks.
Yeah, fair enough. Although they brought back 4 players that started games last year, and they're not all – I think one of them is not starting this year. But, no, they did get beat up a little bit in that Tulane game. The game was a lot closer than the score would have indicated. All right, so LSU's had problems at all 3 levels defensively. Lane Kiffin's pretty creative guy. When you see Jackson Dart attack this LSU defense, what are you expecting today?
Well, I think they're going to try to run it and see if they can. But if LSU's disciplined in their front 7, I think they could stop it the same way everybody else has. I mean, one of the things Brian Kelly said this week, Hanny, that I thought was really interesting is he talked about Jordan Jefferson playing nose this week. And a big topic of conversation has been what's up with Mason Smith, right? Well, Mason Smith as a freshman played a lot of 3 and 5 technique. Well, he's been playing a lot of 0 technique in this defense. That coupled with the fact that he needed to get into shape and he's coming off a knee injury and he had a really bad ankle injury in camp that we probably haven't talked enough about. I mean, there was a legit chance he might not have played against Florida State anyway because of that ankle injury. So all of that has compounded. I think you move Jordan Jefferson to nose and you get Mason Smith more active, sort of in the gap. That might benefit LSU a bit more. But what do I expect from Kiffin? I expect him to try to run it because that's what Lane has done exceptionally well during his time there. But if LSU can play sound defense and you're getting no more space back, so you should have a rotation of linebacker this week. I think LSU's front 7 should be fine in this matchup.
In regards to Smith, and I appreciate Kelly sticking up for his player, but I know what I saw last week, and 3 technique, 5 technique, 1 technique, whatever, he got pushed back, and Jefferson
wasn't good.
Yeah. So I wonder if, it might be better off if they flip that rotation a little bit right now. But in regards to putting some pressure on Jackson Dart, what do you expect to see from Matt House and this team that's had such a hard time getting off the field on third down?
Oh, man. I don't know what else you can do at this point. And Brian Kelly this week talked about trying to sort of simplify things a little bit defensively, and maybe that's the ticket. Because, the thing about last week in the busts in that game were it was so much of it was mental mistakes. And and the hard thing about it is if I look back at the struggles this defense has had, right, I can look at Keon Coleman in the game he had, for Florida State, just mossing LSU's defensive backs. Okay, well, you're playing man coverage and their guy is better. I get it. So you start playing zone. Well, you play zone and you have a bunch of missed assignments, and then you get beat for 59-yard touchdowns because your cornerback leaves the receiver to try to come up and tackle the quarterback. So I don't know. I wish I had the answer of what they may try to do. I think the key is see if you can stop the run without numbers and play numbers in coverage in the secondary. And I guess that's what they're going to do, Hanny. I mean, it makes the most sense to me anyway. But as far as pressuring Jackson Dart, Lane said it last year. The game changed when Harold Perkins went into the game. This was the game last year where he sort of emerged. So maybe we'll get the big game from Perkins. We've all kind of been waiting to see.
He had a great quote about Perkins. He said, I wish they put him back inside.
It was beautiful.
Yeah, moving back.
Scone, there you go. You talked about getting the running game going with Judkins. They're going to try to do that. What about Jackson Dart's legs? I mean, he's been pretty dynamic running the football so far this season. How does LSU go about stopping that? He's their leading rusher.
Yeah, he's their leading rusher. So I'd say hi. Okay,
hey,
sorry. I'm very sorry. Drew wanted to say hi. Anyway, how do they stop Jackson Dart? Erica, please come get Drew. Sorry. This is live radio and this is real life. Okay.
It's all right.
How do they stop Jackson Dart? It's tackle. I mean, I know that sounds so simplistic, but it wasn't like last week. Look at the play we just talked about. The 59-yard touchdown last week. You had KJ Jefferson dead to rights, and you let him escape to the sideline. And as he's going to the sideline, that's when Zy Alexander tried to come up, and he left Luke Haas, who burned everybody for the 59-yarder. I know it sounds so simplistic, but guys, I'm really of the belief that what's ailing this LSU defense right now is mental. Like they're not going to be a top 10 defense. They just don't have the personnel to be a top 10 defense. But if they play more sound, they have enough talent on that defense to be a top 50 defense. And if they're that, then they're good enough to complement this offense. So I really think it's a lesser challenge this week getting Jackson Dart on the ground than it is KJ Jefferson just because of his size. So LSU's – when Brian Kelly says we need a tackle, I don't think that's a fabrication. I think I think he believes that. You've got to be able to tackle guys better. And LSU's not doing that.
You should watch this film of A&M. They're doing a pretty good job of tackling Arkansas. I mean, a very good job at tackling Arkansas.
But Haney, isn't that a great example of it? Like, they had Arkansas had a 4th and 1. They go for it with KJ out of the shotgun, and Arkansas wraps him up and gets him on the ground, or A&M did. Like, yes, I mean, you've had guys in position. You just got to make plays.
They have today. A&M has at least, including a pair of pick sixes in this second half. All right, on the offensive side though, Matt, right now LSU looks about as good as you can look when you take the drives in the Mississippi State game, the drives in the Arkansas game, save maybe the first 3 possessions of the Arkansas game. This group is looking like best case scenario. They're balanced, they're poised, they've got the big playability. Pretty much everything is going well there.
They're awesome. Hanny, I don't know if you remember, but I came on with you and Jimmy for a practice report the very first day of fall camp. And I was talking about how badly the receivers were beating the LSU defensive backs in all the drills.
Yeah.
And I remember, and Jimmy was saying, well, it's odd because usually the defense is ahead, which is true. But aren't we seeing that manifest so far through the first month of the season? LSU's offense is really good, and the defense isn't. So I'm not surprised by what we're seeing with the LSU offense. You got a 5th-year – this is why I picked LSU to win the league and to go to the playoff. Like, in a year where there's a lot of uncertainty at quarterback in this conference, you have a 5th-year starter who is an awesome player. You've got freak show receivers. I think Malik Neighbors is – is emerging as a bona fide megastar. He reminds me of a more explosive Jarvis Landry. He's physical and he's a physical receiver who can make the tough catches, but he can beat you over the top. Logan Diggs' emergence is awesome, and I think this offensive line has played really well. So I think today, guys, LSU goes and they do what they've been doing. I think they put up 35, 38 points, and you see if that's enough, and if your defense can get off the field enough and give this offense enough chances.
All right, Matt, coming up after the game, whiskey and wine, you and T-Bob.
Yeah, man, we'll be live over at Don Juan in Town Center. So, of course, we invite everybody to come out and watch the game or hang out with us there after the game. Or if you can't make it out there, you can watch us on the 104.5 ESPN YouTube or Facebook pages. We'll look forward to seeing everybody there.
Very good. Matt Muscona, appreciate it. Got a full scoreboard coming up next. A&M has just brought a punt return back for a touchdown. They are opening up on Arkansas. Kentucky just turns Florida back on a 4th down near midfield. They take over. A&M and Kentucky opening up leads here. We'll tell you about that, plus all of the rest of the scores in college football. We are at Rouse's, Burbank and Lee. Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. A poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206
98.1.
The Dependable Storage College Football Scoreboard. Dependable Storage. Let us store your stuff. DependableStorage.com.
Lead Arkansas 34-16 with 7:40 to go in that one. Kentucky has just added a 50-yard field goal. They lead Florida 33-14 with 7:44 to go in regulation. Ray Davis, the Vanderbilt transfer that's playing for Kentucky, 276 yards and 3 touchdowns. So that puts him 44 yards short of the league record.
They still got to salt the game away.
Yes, they do. It's not out of reach. Late third quarter score. Number 8 USC leads Colorado 48-29. Caleb Williams has thrown 6 touchdown passes now, but they got to keep him in the game because Colorado's still within shouting distance. They put up 29 yards against that horrible USC defense. 48-29 or 48-27.
They just took it off the board.
They did take it off the board. See if you can find it.
That's
Colorado had a 2-point conversion that they have taken off the board. So hang on, we'll get back to that at the end of the scoreboard. Right now it's 48-27, pending a review. Number 6 Penn State leads Northwestern 27-13. This was a tie ball game, 10-10 at the half. Minnesota leading UL Lafayette 35-24. Cajuns hung tough today, but they're going to come up short. 2:35 to go in Minneapolis. Utah State leads UConn 31-27. These are all fourth quarter scores. Clemson leads Syracuse 24-14. Cole Klubling's thrown a couple of touchdown passes, and Will Shipley's got a touchdown run, but it was 2 Syracuse turnovers in the first half that really aided the Clemson cause. Tulane leading UAB 28-20. That's early in the fourth quarter. Also in the fourth quarter, James Madison leads South Alabama 24-10. Buffalo and Akron are tied at 10. Second quarter scores, Eastern Michigan leads Central Michigan 10-7, and Virginia leads Boston College 14-0. You wonder if that effort against Florida State from Boston College may have taken it out of them. They came up just a little bit short in that game. They've been blown out. They were blown out last week, and they're on the short end against a 0-4 Virginia team today. Kent State leads Miami of Ohio 3-0. The game is just underway. Top of the hour, Arizona State is at Cal. We'll give you ranked matchups the rest of the way. Number 1 Georgia at 2:30 will face Auburn. 3-1 or the Tigers, but Georgia's 2-touchdown favorite there. Also at 2:30, number 2 Michigan on the road for the first time. They are at Nebraska. Matchup of ranked teams in Austin is number 24 Kansas meets number 3 Texas. Both teams are 4-0. Later on this afternoon, 3 o'clock kickoff for number 23 Missouri at Vanderbilt. Tigers a 2-touchdown favorite in that one if they win. LSU will go to Columbia next week with Missouri as a 5-0 team. 5:30 kickoff for number 9 Oregon at Stanford. If the Ducks win there, they get a week off before they face Washington. Iowa State at 6 o'clock at number 14 Oklahoma. Sooners trying to avoid looking ahead to the big matchup with Texas next week. Number 11 Notre Dame at number 17 Duke. That is a 6:30 kickoff from Durham, North Carolina. South Carolina at number 21 Tennessee. That's a 6:30 kickoff from Knoxville. Wild game last year. 8 o'clock kickoff for number 12 Alabama and Mississippi State. 9 o'clock kick for number 7 Washington and Arizona. Huskies, like the Ducks, have next week off before the big matchup with Oregon. Let's see if they can avoid the look ahead this week. And the late game, Nevada at number 25 Fresno State. That's 0-4 against 4-0. And that is your college football scoreboard. We're here at Rouse's, our LaBerge countdown to kickoff now at 3 hours and 5 minutes. We remind you about the quality products here at Rouse's. The Rouse's brand means you're going to get a quality product at a lower price than many of the national brands. When you see the Rouse's name on it, you know that it's good. Still to come on the program, we'll hear from the principals in today's ball game. Plus, we'll go up to Oxford, the voice of the Tigers, Chris Blair. Richard Dixon, former Tigers, got keys to the V. That's all in the final hour of our program today from Rouse's Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
The Windsor Senior Living Community in Mandeville, Louisiana is a beautiful, vibrant apartment community geared towards seniors. They are nestled right in the heart of Mandeville, where seniors live a more carefree lifestyle in spacious apartments with the peace of mind that comes from having a little extra help. Call the Windsor at 985-624-8040 to schedule a lunch and tour. Come see how the Windsor can be your passport to peace of mind.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. with driver and passenger massage seats. Mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Opposing Media.
Presented by Rev. Fiber fast internet made in Louisiana.
Early this week, sat down with Neil McCready from Rebel Grove to take a closer look at the Ole Miss Rebels.
Neil, we appreciate the time. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Appreciate you having me. Always good to be with you guys.
Absolutely. So, Neil, look, I kind of want to start just with a vibe check in a sense. I mean, Ole Miss off to the 3-0 start. A lot of hype, a lot of social media hype surrounding Alabama. They go in. It's a tightly contested first half. Not so much in the second half. What's kind of the vibes around Ole Miss and around Oxford after that game?
Yeah, I don't know how much social media hype there was. It was just generated by one person who did all the hype. He sort of set himself up for that. After that game, it should have been sobering to Ole Miss people. There was a lot of talk about going in there and winning. A lot of people talking about winning big. A lot of national media picked them to win. They'd not really been tested yet. They played Tulane, but Pratt didn't play that day. They had played Georgia Tech, and the score looked different than what the reality was. The reality was that was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. So, I think coming out of the Alabama game, there's a sobering reality that, A, this is not going to be easy, and that's what I think some people were starting to think, and that B, this team has flaws, some significant flaws that unless they can fix or find workarounds that are probably going to be fatal at times.
So, looking at the team as a whole as they prepare to welcome in LSU, one of the obvious talking points throughout the offseason and leading in was quarterback position. Who was it going to be? It ends up being Jackson Dart. What'd you make of his performance so far through the first 4 weeks?
Oh, I think he's been terrific. I think he's been maybe one of the 2 or 3 bright spots on their team. I never understood a lot of the quarterback thing in the first place. When they brought Spencer Sanders in, it was sort of as a head scratcher, I guess is what I'm looking for. They brought Walker Howard in, made total sense. You needed a quarterback for the future, a guy that was, had a lot of eligibility left. This is Spencer Sanders' final year. You assumed when they brought him in that he brought him in to be the guy, to be the starter, and I think there was an expectation that maybe Jackson would leave. He didn't. He stayed. He competed. He won the job. He's played really well. The problem for him has been some of his receiver targets have had a hard time staying healthy. They've not been able to establish the running game. Jackson Dart's the leading rusher on this team, and up front, it's the big question mark with Ole Miss this year. That offensive line has just not performed the way that a lot of people thought that it would with 4 returning starters, and that's been the problem for them. He's gotten hit a lot. He's been pressured a lot. He's had to escape and run a lot, and they've had to use him as a design runner a lot to try to establish the running game, and they've put a lot on his plate.
What has gone so wrong with the offensive line, Neil? Because you just mentioned it. I mean, 4 returning starters. I mean, what has happened there that it's been such a struggle for them? I mean, I know Lane Kiffin said earlier this week when he was asked about the run game, where he goes, well, I mean, it's not like we're a team that hasn't been able to run the football in the past, or a program that hasn't been able to run the football in the past. They have been. What has gone so wrong there up front?
It's a great question. I'm not sure I completely know the answer. They're getting beat on the perimeter. They're getting beat in the A gaps. They've made some adjustments. They've changed starters at left tackle. Jaden Williams is out. Victor Kern's in. The Washington transfer, he's been fine. The UAB transfer, Cedric McGee's playing left guard. He's been fine. Jeremy James is coming back from an injury. He's playing guard. I think he's more of a natural tackle. He wants to play tackle. Their center is beat up a little bit. But all of that being said, they just don't appear to have a lot of chemistry up front. They're committing, especially at the right tackle. Micah Pettis has been a holding machine. He'll have his hands full on Saturday with the LSU's electric front. And Lane's right. Look, if you think about his teams, not just his Ole Miss teams, but going back to Alabama, to USC, to FAU, whatever the case may be, they've always been able to run the football. That's what they do. We in the media sometimes do the whole, they throw it a lot, they're pass happy and all that stuff. It's really not true. They've established the run. And you look at his Ole Miss teams, and statistically, they've been at or near the top of the SEC in most rushing categories at the end of the season. This year, that's not been the case. They've just not been able to establish it. And look, when you build your offense off the running game and you can't run it, well, you know the rest. Everything else gets super hard. And throw in some injuries to wide receivers and some continuity type things, and it can get kind of rough.
So I think the obvious place for me to go then next with that is Quinshon Judkins. And I think everyone's really wants to say is, where is he? But I mean, he is there. It's just been a struggle getting him going. So how do they get him going more? Is it more in the passing game if they can't get it going up front? Because I mean, look, I don't have to tell you, Quinshon Judkins is electric. Like, that's a guy you got to get the ball in his hands, right?
Well, he was electric last year. That was certainly the case. So far this year, I think he's been banged up a little bit. He has not been electric. He's had a hard time getting going. He doesn't appear to have some of the wiggle that he had last year. He's gotten a little bigger, not in a fat way, but he's gotten a little stronger. I think sometimes these guys, after that freshman year, they get in the weight room and maybe they get too much in the weight room, and you can get a little stiff. And I'm not saying he is, but he doesn't look the same, and that might be the injury. It might just be some stub stuff. He got banged up at the end of that Tulane game a few weeks ago, and really hasn't been super effective. He had a couple of runs against Alabama where he was starting to look like his old self, so maybe he's on the verge of a breakthrough. They desperately need that. If he can't break through, look, no one talked about it because of the year that Judkins had. But they had Zach Evans a year ago, and there was a number of games where Zach Evans was super effective for them and a real change of pace, and he was certainly the type of back that if you were a defensive coordinator, you had to prepare for him because he was a game breaker, and if he got loose in space, he was really difficult to bring down. And I think that took some pressure off Judkins, and I think it stopped offensive coordinators from being able to completely key in on Quinshon, and now they can, and they have, and they've been able to neutralize him.
Talk with Neil McCready on Twitter at Neil McCready. Neil, you've mentioned it a couple times throughout this interview here about the injuries on the outside to the wide receivers. I'm curious about a few of them. I know obviously Zachary Franklin made a return last week for the first time, very limited. It looked like he was getting more involved in practice this week, as well as Trey Harris, who went down in that Tulane game and had surgery and is already back. Any new update you can tell us on those two guys?
No, they're super quiet about injuries here. It's kind of the antithesis of the way Brian Kelly treats it at LSU. They don't talk about it. Harris, he played, I think, 5 snaps at Alabama, but he wasn't anywhere near himself. He was just very limited, kind of red zone packages. I don't know. I don't know whether how much he'll be back. I don't think it's realistic to expect that he's going to be 100% a week later. Caden Prescorn, the tight end, made his debut last week. Looked gassed by the end, looked pretty sluggish. He'd been in a boot for basically a month, so that's to be expected. You don't just play your way into playing shape with one game. You mentioned Zachary Franklin. He did play 60 snaps, so that's probably a sign that he's pretty close to ready to go and feeling good. So of those 3, he's probably the one that I would say is closest to 100%. But there's not a lot of chemistry there. There's not a lot of continuity there because those guys haven't played. And here we are, week 5, and you're going up against an SEC team, and you're trying to make those things happen. And those guys didn't play against Mercer. They didn't play against Tulane. They didn't play against Georgia Tech, and you can see it.
I want to flip sides of the ball now and go to the defense. Just kind of leave it pretty open-ended. The biggest strength you've seen so far through 4 weeks for the Ole Miss defense.
They're just so much better coached. Pete Golding has them playing a 4-man front. They're far more fundamentally sound. They're in the right place more often. They're tackling better. They just appear to like this scheme better than they liked the one a year ago, which was a little bit more passive, a little bit more bend and try not to break. And you bent and you bent and you bent. And over the course of a day, that wore you out a little bit. This one's more aggressive. They're getting in the right gap more often than they did a year ago. There was times last couple of years where you would just see the C's part and it was assignments blown. They've minimized that. The one thing about this defense is that it doesn't have the speed guys that a lot of times you see in the SEC. I think Pete Golding would like to have a faster defense, but they're working on that on the recruiting end. The one guy to watch, and you saw a bunch of him against Alabama last week, is Suntaran Perkins, the 5-star recruit that they got out of Raleigh, Mississippi a year ago. Everybody recruited him. They used him as a spy a little bit on Jalen Milroe. He was really effective. They used him in some different ways that just sort of utilized his speed and athleticism. And he was kind of a weapon for Ole Miss defensively. And I think you'll see more of him against LSU and then on down the road. He's obviously a guy that they're super excited about.
Are you kind of expecting the same role for him, given Jaden Daniels' ability to run the ball as well?
Yeah, I would think so. But you got to keep in mind he's a true freshman. I think you can, if you throw too much at him, all of a sudden you're complicating things. I would think they'll use him a good bit in that role. But now LSU's seen it. So LSU's prepared for it. So, you're going to get some of that chess game. The problem when you use a spy is you can take a defender out of the pass game. The opposing offenses can scheme that away, right? Where you pay for that. You pay for the guy just kind of floating there waiting for the quarterback to commit, and downfield there's a hole in the zone or there's an opening for you to do, with routes, you can run somebody open. So you have to be careful with doing a whole lot of that. And look, at this point, Jaden Daniels has seen just about every defense someone's going to throw at him. I'm a big Daniels fan. I think he's terrific. So I'm sure they'll throw some different looks at him, and that'll be one that they'll throw. And he's a really effective player in that manner. He can close fast. He's very athletic. He's a good tackler. He's a physical player. But no, I don't think they'll just 70 snaps line up Perkins as a spy and say chase Jaden Daniels around. I doubt that's the strategy.
A couple more with Neil McCready here before I let you go. You mentioned lack of speed. Would you categorize that as the biggest weakness for the Ole Miss defense, or is there something else that stands out?
Yeah, it's probably that. It's just, over the last few years, that's not where they've recruited a lot of, star-studded players. They've had a lot of success on the offensive side of the ball, and they've not had as much on defense. They were really relying on the transfer portal. They signed more than 20 transfer portal guys on defense alone in this last cycle. So it's just a bunch of guys that they're trying to fit and find. And again, Golding's done a terrific job, but this will be their biggest test to date. I think the LSU offense is elite. I know everybody down there is worried about defense and defensive backs, and I get it, but I think that LSU offense is elite. I think you saw that last week with their ability to hold serve against Arkansas when Arkansas got going in the second half. Look, if LSU's offense has a bad drive, a turnover, anything that could have ended differently in Baton Rouge last week. The fact that offense just stayed on schedule, possession after possession after possession, was I would hope LSU fans appreciated it, because that was that game could have gone the other way. I think KJ Jefferson's terrific now. I mean, he's one of the more underrated players in the league, and probably LSU's defensive staff agrees with that after what happened Saturday. That LSU offense, man, it's special.
Yeah, I think we all saw how massive it was in the game last year that he didn't play KJ Jefferson as opposed to this time around. Last one, Neil, if there's a blueprint for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss at home to win the game, how do they do it?
Well, LSU's going to score points. And so you have to hold serve. You've got to run the football. You can't have turnovers. You've got to score with them. You've got to keep the pressure on them. You got to run tempo. You got to get into that defensive secondary. You've got to get LSU playing maybe a little tentative defensively, worrying about giving up big plays. You got to stay ahead of the chains. You got to stay. It's got to be 3rd and 3, not 3rd and 13. It's basic stuff. And then look, at some point, if Ole Miss is going to win this game, they've got to create a couple of turnovers. They've got to get that LSU offense off the field, off schedule, and maybe do something where you get up 10-14 and you get LSU chasing points. Although Arkansas got up 10 and they just came right back. I mean, touchdown, got the ball back, touchdown. That's what they are. And I think if you're Ole Miss, that has to be your concern. Is that I just think the LSU offense is so much more explosive than Ole Miss's is.
He is Neil McCready, Rebel Grove, on Twitter at Neil McCready. Covers Ole Miss. Y'all give him a follow, especially with the coverage here this week leading into the Magnolia Bowl. Neil, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks, and we'll do it again.
I'll be happy to. Thank you for having me.
When it comes to ending cancer, we push forward, always working together for you. That's why our cancer experts at Ochsner have clinically integrated with MD Anderson Cancer Center. This means advanced cancer care, including access to life-saving clinical trials and integrating care to treat the whole you. Introducing Ochsner MD Anderson Cancer Center. Long live you.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
Make this summer your backyard party year with Chris's Specialty Foods. Wings, burgers, brisket, steak, and boudin, plus great Cajun side dishes. We do all the prep, and you enjoy laughing with friends and family. Chris's Specialty Foods, Millerville, New Orleans, Prairieville, and Frisco.
Everybody loves Chris's authentic Cajun meat.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
Life in Louisiana is a song. A symphony of sound, colors, and movement. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756.
98.1. Eagle 98.1. Game Day. Talkin' Tigers.
Presented by TRICARE. TRICARE. For all your gas or diesel vehicles needs, take it to TRICARE.
Talkin' Tigers.
Offensive lineman Emory Jones.
He's playing his butt off, honestly. Like, he's making his reads, completing the ball, getting it to the right guys at the right time. Taking shots, and we all believe in him, and I think he's believing in himself right now.
Defensive lineman Braden Swinson.
Honestly, our challenge is on us, really. Just being better than what we was last week. Every week we want to be 1-0. Every week we trying to take steps to get better. So it's like we really just honing in on just LSU versus LSU every day. Trying to be better than what we was on Tuesday, better than what we was on Monday. Just always just taking steps to get better, really.
Running back Logan Diggs.
I really want to say it's just motivation at the end of the day. We all know what we're playing for. We all gel together because at the end of the day, we want to go compete for a national championship, and like I said, you got to have short-term memory loss, so you win the game. It's good while it lasts, but at the end of the day, you got to move on to the next week because every team that we're going to play, they're going to give us their best shot. So we got to be on our P's and Q's all the time.
Linebacker Whit Weeks.
It feels good. Playing in Death Valley has always been a dream of mine, so playing in front of 100,000 people really is a big difference from high school. And coming in the fall camp, I was running with the twos, not really running with the ones, but I knew that if my time came, I'd, make the most of it.
Offensive lineman Emory Jones.
Just kind of understanding their scheme, understanding the things that they do, you know, understanding what they're going to do before they even do it. You know, having pre-snap recognition is going to be big this week. Kind of just knowing where their stunts and stuff are going to come from, where their blicks and stuff are going to come from is going to be huge for us, you know, with building our run game this week.
Defensive lineman Braden Swinson.
I really feel like just pass rushing come natural with it, and then with the coaching staff I have, and how much they didn't help me and just develop my strength and speed and everything. I just came all together. Once going through the whole summer process here with Coach Flint, him and their staff doing a great job, just building me physically and mentally. It just all came with it. And also, I'm trying to figure out, like, it's this thing we did in the summertime where we had like a get-off test, like, where we just always did it. So just the time of the ball and just being able to get off and react to the ball at a certain time, that also played a major role in just helping.
Running back Logan Diggs.
Playing in the SEC is tough, and especially going on the road playing in the SEC. So at the end of the day, I'm really confident in our offense. I'm really confident in the defense, and overall, I'm really confident in the coaches and in our preparation. You know, at the end of the day, all we can do is focus on and control what we can control at the end of the day. You know, and I feel like it's always going to be the way that we prepare. If we go out and prepare hard this week, the outcome going to show in the game. If we don't, then it's after the game, and we got to reflect on what we didn't and what we did do wrong throughout the week.
Linebacker Whit Weeks.
Yeah, Coach House has a real good game plan. You know, they're a fast offense, so we've been working tempo out at practice today, and you really just got to eliminate the big plays with them.
Offensive lineman Emory Jones.
Explosiveness. Logan, he sees the holes, and he bursts through them. And, you know, he's just been doing a really great job at getting through those holes and, you know, getting those dirty yards, getting those 2 and 3 extra yards after contact. So he's been doing a great job at, you know, getting us those dirty yards and making plays when we need them.
Defensive lineman Braden Swinson.
We got to do a great job of just having the cage rush and just caging them in with our pass rush, really. You know, we got great guys that's going to get back there to them. But really, we just got to focus on just pass rush and just keeping our rush lanes for real, just holding it.
Linebacker Whit Weeks.
It's a feeling that I've never had in my life. Running out the tunnel, you can't even feel your body. Like last week against Mississippi State, the first play, I couldn't feel my legs because it was my first start, so I was real nervous, of course. And then here at home, I knew it was going to be a totally different ball game because, you know, it's a different level here than anywhere else. But I mean, being out there, once I kind of got comfortable with it, the crowd was loud. It was awesome.
Offensive lineman Emory Jones.
It's great, honestly. You know, we all got a whole bunch of love for each other. So, you know, going into work every day, you want to see the guy next to you be better. And I feel like we're all pushing each other to be better, and all pushing each other towards that goal. And a goal that Coach Davis set for us this year was winning the Joe Moore Award. So, you know, we all got that in mind, and, you know, we're trying to work to show that we're the best.
Defensive lineman Braden Swinson.
You got to have the edges set. Once you have an edge, everything come along with it. You know, we got a dominant D-line up front. We got Jordan Jefferson, we got Mason Smith, you know, Wingo, a whole bunch of guys up there that's ready to hold it down. And only thing it is about just controlling the line of scrimmage and really just setting edges, and just playing with grit. That's really all it is.
Linebacker Whit Weeks.
Yeah, in our meeting this week, we were talking about everybody has to do their 111th in order for us to take it to the next step of defense, because, you know, you can't pop your gap in the run game, especially against this running back, because, you know, he's one of the best running backs in the country. So we know we got to play sound run game, and then in pass coverage, don't, you know, Coach House says chase the cheese, don't chase under routes, stay in your drops.
Talking Tigers, Eagle 98.1, Game Day.
Life in Louisiana is like a run-on sentence. A poem that doesn't rhyme. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
The importance of doing this fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially. And I think we're rocking and rolling.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096.
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Keys to the beat.
Presented by Coors Light. Coors Light. Mountain cold refreshment made to chill.
All right, they're wrapping up in Arlington. A&M, I don't think they're going to try to punch in. They're just going to kneel on this thing with 4 seconds to go. But they will wrap up a 2-score at least victory over Arkansas. So A&M and Kentucky, your winners in the early SEC game. Let's bring in our friend Richard Dixon now. Be with us on postgame tonight. Rich, how you doing this afternoon?
Doing good, man. Watching Colorado try to get back in this thing.
Yeah. You know, they're within 2 scores. It's 48-34, and they had the ball up around midfield before they turned it over on downs. They've given a real nice accounting of themselves today against the team. It was a 3-touchdown favorite. It looks like USC is going to get home, but Colorado put some points on the board today for sure. Rich, before we get into the X's and O's of this thing, you're a Mississippi native. You grew up there, and your family, we've talked about this a bunch of times. You've got Ole Miss and Mississippi State bloodlines in there. So you know a little bit about this rivalry and what it means to Ole Miss and their fan base.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, it's always fun. I like telling the story. It's always been a bigger rivalry for Ole Miss fans than it is for LSU fans. I can remember, growing up hearing about the Ole Miss fans talk about it. And when I first started getting recruited by LSU, Coach Josh Henson, he called me to recruit one night. They're about to play Ole Miss. I said, "You ready for the rivalry game?" He goes, "It's only a rivalry for them." So, Ole Miss is the only one that's ever considered a rivalry. I learned that early on, getting a bad urge.
But at the same time, this is, at times been a tricky game for LSU going up to Oxford. So when you watched Ole Miss against Alabama last week, the Rebels had the lead at the half but couldn't hold on to it. What stood out to you about this version of the Rebels?
The big thing was Alabama's defense, the way they played in the second half, completely shut out the Rebels. And, Jackson Dart, to me, wasn't as inaccurate of a thrower early on in the game. I don't know if it was bad. I haven't watched too much Ole Miss, but he couldn't complete the ball early on. And when they tried to get moving in the second half, Alabama stuffed them. So it was a tough game for them. My biggest fear in this game is we got to get some stops on defense. I mean, I just don't want to get into a shootout all night long.
Okay. With what you've seen out of LSU defensively, there were busts last week against Arkansas. Earlier in the season, they were having some problems stopping the run. So when you talk about defensive adjustments that LSU has to make against this Ole Miss offense, what are you looking at?
They just have to play clean. Every time there's a bust, there's 1 or 2 guys not doing their job or trying to do too much, trying to take over somebody else's position. Everybody's got to stay clean in assignment and just do their job and limit the big plays.
When you talk about assignment football against the RPO game of Ole Miss, I know they haven't run the football as well as they usually do, but the RPO game is still very dangerous for them. What kind of assignment football are you talking about on the other side?
So you're really going to have to stay with your receivers. Jackson Dart is a very capable runner. What happened on the tight end in the big play against Arkansas, you had a cornerback come off his guy because he saw the quarterback getting downfield, and wanted to go make a stop on the run play and completely forgot about covering his guy. That's something that could really hurt us in this game. Jackson Dart's going to keep his eyes downfield. The guys got to stay with their guys and let the linebackers and D-line chase it down the quarterback.
Now, if you do that in man coverage, you do run the risk of Dart being able to take off and run even in the non-RPO part of the game. So containment, but also that push up that defensive middle. LSU got it from Jordan Jefferson a little bit last week, but playing man coverage always makes me, and I know they have to do it, but it makes me a little bit nervous about the quarterback run game.
Well, definitely. The only thing that makes you feel good is you got a combination of Weeks and Perkins in there, two running backs that can really move, and you hope that that they have one of them kind of keeping their eyes on what the quarterback's doing.
All right, offensively, LSU's in a pretty good spot right now. They are balanced. They are explosive. I hate to ask you what to, how you improve on that, but it's been a pretty good last couple of weeks for the Tiger offense.
Yeah, there's not much to improve on. I mean, they've been really scoring at will. Other than a few bad series with the quarterback just had to, get back in a rhythm. I mean, things have been clean. I like the way they're running the ball now. It's just, my biggest concern is getting stops on defense.
Jaden Daniels has been rolling, and I know that early in the season, one of the things you were talking about was, hey, man, throw the ball down. If everybody was saying that, but he has added that component. He looks so much more comfortable throwing the ball down the field now, and with that run game to go with it. Would you say he has now become a more comfortable downfield passer?
There's no doubt, and I think a lot of it's to do with confidence. He had a breakout game, throwing the ball down the field. It loosened things up. It made the run game go, and now it's part of him now. I think he just got a lot more confidence in letting that ball go.
You watched Kentucky and Florida today?
I watched it until they got up. Kentucky got up with 24-22 nothing. Then I turned back on the A&M game. Then A&M got up, and I was like, God dang it! So I go back to the Colorado game.
I was just wondering because that was such a big rivalry for you guys in the late 2000s that. I watch Florida now, and I just wonder if it's the same program at times. And I picked them in the game today. I'll come clean on that. But just really surprising how big of a lack of execution that they had today because they just look lost.
No, there's no doubt. That's not the Florida that we grew up playing. I mean, not from a talent standpoint either. I mean, the Florida Gators I'm used to playing had 5 to 7 first-rounders on the team. I mean, they don't have the talent they had as usual. But, yeah, I mean, they don't look like a confident team either.
Kind of hard to be confident when Kentucky ran for
300 yards.
Davis had an SEC record in his sights there for a while. All right, Rich, we'll see you 90 minutes after the game, LSU and Ole Miss. We'll talk to you in postgame.
Yes, sir. See you later.
All right. USC misses a field goal. Colorado clinging to some life here. 48-34 with 5:58 to go in regulation. And the game has gone final with Texas A&M and Arkansas. 34-22 is your final there. We'll have one final scoreboard update before we finish here today. The LaBerge countdown to kickoff is 2 hours and 30 minutes. We're here at Rouse's. When you see the Rouse's brand on products, you know that they are good. So many of these products are also sold here at Rouse's by the national brands, but you're going to get quality and affordability with the Rouse's brand. When you see the Rouse's label, you know that it's good. Rouse's producing most of their products right here at home, but they travel the world as well. We invite you to pick up all your tailgating items when you're on your way into campus at this Rouse's, just a couple of miles off campus here at Burbank and Lee. This is Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
Life in Louisiana is a song. A symphony of sound, colors, and movement. Life is here, now. For life's moments, big and small, always there. The right card, the right care.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Call in Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infiniti Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water. They can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines. Or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to
98.1. Eagle 98.1 Game Day. Inside the Stadium.
Inside the Stadium. Presented by K to Z Window Coverings. K to Z Blinds.com, where style meets functionality, both inside and out.
And we head up to Oxford, Mississippi. Check in with the voice of Tigers, Chris Blair. Chris, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm good, Charlie. We haven't made it to Oxford. We're actually here in beautiful Batesville, Mississippi, at the Batesville Civic Center for our pregame stretch.
Is this going to be a thing now, every week, that you guys are going to stop the bus and stretch at some random location? Is this like built into the itinerary now?
Well, yes, it is. And let me clarify, like I did before, I'm not stretching. The team is. More of a they're stretching, not we're stretching. But yes, I think this is part of the plan now to, make sure 15, 20 minutes away from the stadium that, they haven't, dozed off, taking a little cat nap on an hour plus ride. So I think it serves several purposes, but I think this is going to be part of the travel plan.
I don't suppose it occurred to them to stay closer to the stadium, and then the ride wouldn't be as long. I'm just throwing things out there, right?
It worked in Starkville.
Yeah, I would say that that would probably be correct, Charles, except I enjoy staying in Memphis a lot more than I do in Oxford, so I'm not going to suggest that.
Didn't they put you guys up at the Peabody last night, the Peabody Ducks? I mean, the Ducks are still a thing, right?
Yeah, they are a Ducks. Got to watch them come prancing in at 11 o'clock this morning. All five of them made it to the fountain. And, again, the Peabody is one of those great American hotels. And, so, yeah, I'll take that and a drive and a stretch any day.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the Peabody. You walk across the alley, you eat at the Rendezvous. You get some ribs. It's fantastic. All right, Chris, let's talk about the prep for this game. LSU, big offensive performance a week ago. Some defensive issues, but getting ready for this Ole Miss team. This is always a testy rivalry, especially where Ole Miss is concerned when they play this game on the road.
Yeah, and I don't think that it should be lost that, Coach Kelly and staff kind of touched on, last week's game being, hey, look, if you didn't believe us when we told you Arkansas was going to come in here and give everything they have, well, there's the proof. And so now you have a similar situation in which there was all this hype for Ole Miss going to Tuscaloosa and Alabama doing Alabama things. They win 24-10. They pretty much dominated and held the Ole Miss offense in check. Only one touchdown on the day. So I think that's kind of been the theme, which is, hey, guys, get ready for another one. Team coming off a loss. And albeit it's just the second conference game of the year for Ole Miss, but you talk to people from Oxford, and they talk about how it's almost a must-win if they want to compete for the SEC West. I know they sense, like everybody else, that it's wide open this year, or possibly wide open, and suddenly you go 0-2 in conference play. So it's almost as if Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, they've got their back against the wall. And oh, by the way, some of those mistakes LSU made defensively, you got to shore up against any team, Charlie, but you certainly have to do it against a team that does some similar things, with a dual threat quarterback who at this point, Jackson Dart's kind of been the offense for Ole Miss. And, I know that Mercer game kind of skewed the stats a little bit because they scored 73 points, but they're still putting points on the board. They're the second leading scoring team in the conference.
When you were talking with Brian Kelly, especially during the coaches show and elsewhere this week, some of the keys that he was talking about as far as shoring up some of those defensive lapses.
He always talked about how there's a theme each week. A couple of weeks back it was physicality. He didn't feel like they were physical enough. He said this week it was fundamental. Form tackling, keeping your eyes where they're supposed to be, whether you're, at the line of scrimmage or whether you're downfield, and taking care of your responsibility. You heard him say it after the game last week. He said it on Monday in his press conference, and he reiterated it again on Thursday. Don't try to do everybody else's job. We're asking you to do one job and do your job. So it was a week where he said they went back and really dug down deep on fundamentals. Because, again, as you pointed out, look, I give K.J. Jefferson a lot of credit. The guy made some plays. But there were opportunities for LSU to nip those plays in the bud, so to speak, and they didn't. And they also came off coverage a little too soon. So, again, those are things that will hurt you against K.J. Jefferson in Arkansas, as we saw, and they certainly can hurt you against Jackson Dart, who I think is probably one of the more talented quarterbacks in the SEC this year.
All right, Chris, top of the hour, we hand the baton to the network. What's coming up on pregame?
Well, the guys will break down the matchups again. They're all kind of thinking what we are, which is how good is this Ole Miss team? Like, some of the numbers look really good. Some of the numbers are a little surprising. So they'll have a couple of guys from the Ole Miss beat join them and kind of break down what all of these games have looked like for the Rebels. And then later we'll be joined with Garrett Runyon, LSU women's golf coach. They're off to a fantastic season with some of the best amateur golfers in the country and in the world, for that matter. So they'll talk a little LSU women's golf as well. So it's a jam-packed show, and then we'll take over and have kickoff just after 5 o'clock.
All right, Chris, have a good call and safe trip home. We'll talk to you next week when the Tigers play Missouri.
You got it. Stretch is over. We're on our way to Vaught Hemingway now.
All right, very good. Thanks a lot. Chris Blair, the voice of the Tigers. I know enough about athletes' game days that there is a routine that if they fall out of it is very distracting to them. It's why they hate whenever there's like a weather delay or any kind. There's a certain procedure that you go through, okay? It's how your uniform is folded. It's what time you get to the venue. It's who you're sitting next to. It's what kind of music you're listening to. And if you do something that works, what's the thing? It's only superstition if it works.
If it doesn't work.
Yeah. So they stopped out of necessity, I think, the last time when they were going to Mississippi State. Yeah, they had to stop and stretch. So that worked. And so now it's like, okay, well, we'll stop and stretch again. When I was in high school, we won 2 road playoff games in a row. We had a home game coming up. Our coach came about 3 inches away from putting us on the bus and having us ride around town for about 20 minutes just to simulate the bus ride. Off of nothing other than super. We didn't do it, but we almost. Of course, we lost too. Maybe if he had put us on,
done it,
right? They would have. So listen, they did it the last time. They had a really good start to that game against Mississippi State.
Good.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if you want to stretch in the parking lot at the Civic Center, the car dealership, a gas station, whatever you want to do, if it works, fine. Knock yourself out.
Keep your eyes peeled in Como next week. You might just see the Tigers stretching somewhere in the middle of the city.
All right, Auburn and Georgia are underway. Deion Sanders in Colorado got within a touchdown of USC, but just ran out of time. That one goes final at 48-41. Full scoreboard is next. Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
It was a humid day. barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
Would a couple that just came from a couples massage have any use for the massage seats of the Infiniti QX60? Yes, it appears they would. With driver and passenger massage seats, mute all your notifications and feel infinitely you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water, they can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines, or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving
98.1.
The Robinson Brothers Ford Lincoln College Football Scoreboard. Robinson Brothers Ford Lincoln, on airline under the giant American flag.
All right, we start with games in progress. Late third quarter. Central Michigan leads Eastern Michigan 19-16. Halftime, Virginia leads Boston College 21-7. Miami of Ohio leads Kent State 13-3 late in the first half. Also in the second quarter, Arizona State and Cal are tied at 7. Games just underway. Number 1 Georgia and Auburn. Illinois has kicked an early field goal. They lead Purdue 3-0. Georgia Tech, an early touchdown. They lead Bowling Green 7-0. Fireworks in Lubbock, Houston, and Texas Tech have both scored very early in that game. That is tied at 7. UCF leading Baylor 7-0 about 4 minutes in there. It's been a tough go for Dave Aranda. They lost their last 4 games of last season. They have opened up 1-3 this season. You know who the win was against? You remember this one?
I don't remember.
No, there's no reason you should. They beat Long Island. Okay. So
is that even an FCS school?
No. FCS.
FCS?
Yeah, I think it is. And they are down early.
FCS.
Down early 7-0. Arkansas State 2 quick touchdowns on UMass. They lead 13-0. Navy leads South Florida 7-0 early. Old Dominion, a opening touchdown against Marshall. They lead 7-0. Ball State and Western Michigan are scoreless, as are Michigan and Nebraska, Kansas and Texas. Maryland just gets on the board. They lead Indiana 7-0. That's less than a minute into that game. Earlier finals in college football. USC, number 8 in the country, beat Colorado 48-41. Caleb Williams threw for 403 yards and 6 touchdowns. Colorado got within that touchdown with about a minute and a half to go. Did not have any timeouts left. The onside kick did not recover at USC. knelt out the clock. James Madison beat South Alabama 31-23. Number 6 Penn State pulled away from Northwestern in the second half. This was a 10-10 game at the half. Penn State ends up winning it 41-13. Kentucky goes to 5-0 on the season. They beat number 22 Florida 33-14. I'm not even sure it was that close. Ray Davis ran for 280 yards and 3 touchdowns for Kentucky. He's the Vanderbilt transfer. Quick move. So where did he go before he went to Vanderbilt? He's a 2-time transfer.
Oh,
Temple,
yeah.
Vanderbilt, and Kentucky. This should be a lot of bad football, but this is a really good player.
How did he get his waiver approved?
That's a good question. He was 19 yards short of the Kentucky rushing record, which is held by Mo Williams. He was 41 yards short of the SEC record today. Texas A&M beat Arkansas 34-22. Max Johnson threw a couple of touchdown passes. He also had an interception that was a pick six. Texas A&M got a punt return for a touchdown. They got an interception return for a touchdown in the second half. Minnesota beat UL Lafayette 35-24. Cajuns actually had the lead at the half there, 17-14, but the Gophers get home with 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns. Utah State beats UConn 34-33.
Oh, that's brutal.
UConn falls to 0-5 on the season. Clemson and Texas scored.
Yes, they
Texas
have
has scored.
Ewers touchdown.
Clemson beat Syracuse 31-14 today. Cole Klubnik threw a pair of touchdown passes for Clemson. Tulane struggled with UAB for a while. They trailed by 6 at the half, but they came back to win. Strong second half. They outscored UAB 21-3. They win the game 35-23. And it was Buffalo over Akron 13-10. That was in overtime. Coming up the rest of the day, we're about 10 minutes away from kickoff. Missouri and Vanderbilt, number 23. Tigers are a 14-point favorite. That's LSU's opponent next week. Also 3 o'clock kick for Boise State and Memphis, Hawaii and UNLV, New Mexico and Wyoming. 5:30 kickoff for number 9 Oregon at Stanford. 6 o'clock kickoff for Iowa State at number 14 Oklahoma. Also at 6, East Carolina Rice, Abilene Christian North Texas, Coastal Carolina Georgia Southern, Troy Georgia State, Texas State Southern Miss, Texas Utah Tech. I've got a hard time with that one. In Colorado State, number 11 Notre Dame at number 17 Duke. That's a 6:30 kick from Durham. Also at 6:30 South Carolina at number 21 Tennessee. Michigan State at Iowa. Charlotte at SMU. 7 o'clock kickoffs for Pittsburgh and Virginia Tech. Pair of 1-3 teams in Blacksburg, and a pair of 3-1 teams in Fort Worth as West Virginia travels to take on TCU. App State is at UL Monroe. San Diego State's at Air Force. 8 o'clock kickoff in Starkville. Number 12 Alabama at Mississippi State. 9 o'clock kickoff for number 7 Washington at Arizona. 9:30 kickoff. The late game is Nevada at number 25 Fresno State. Texas makes the extra point, I assume, 7-0. The Longhorns lead Kansas, and that is your college football scoreboard. No score the first 2 drives for Auburn and Georgia, but now a long run, about a 70-yard run for Peyton Thorne for Auburn, but they were deep in their own territory, so it is not for a touchdown. But Auburn in the red zone now with their second drive of the game. It is again a scoreless tie at Jordan-Hare. Take a break, come back with some final thoughts before we hand it to the network. Here at Rouse's, our Le Berge countdown to kickoff is 2 hours and 8 minutes. This is Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
The interior of an Infiniti is thoughtfully designed to be all about you. And by you, we mean every version of you. Because there's luxury you can feel, and there's luxury that lets you feel. Infinitely you. Experience luxury like never before with Infinity Premium Care, included with the 2023 QX80 at your local retailer.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
Scooncha, fall in the air. Fall is right around the corner, which means fall fishing is, which means it's time for you to take your boat to the next level with front-to-back boat service in a bunch of different ways. You want a custom stair job, you can have a ton of fun out there on the water, they can do that. What about a spot lock trolling motor? So you stay right where you need to in casting lines, or sonar that's let you see the fish under the water before you cast. All of your maintenance needs as well. For 38 years, they've been at it and will continue to do so. The Sherman family of front-to-back boat service.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated.
98.1.
Eagle 98.1 Game Day continues here from Rouse's. Remember, all your tailgating needs here at Rouse's. The Rouse's brand always means you're going to get a quality product at a lower price here. They've been producing those local brands here for a long time, same as the national brands, but at a much cheaper price and high quality. When you see Rouse's, you know that it's good. Musso, the game today, Ole Miss and LSU, it's rarely boring.
That's a great way to put it.
You always, well, I say always, most of the time you're fairly interested here. What are you looking for in this afternoon's game?
So, I mean, man, we've talked a lot about Ole Miss's struggles in the run game, and LSU can, contain a struggling running game, getting pressure on Jackson Dart. Surprisingly, I guess we really haven't talked that much about the secondary. I guess we did a little bit with Richard. Ole Miss's receivers have been banged up. The two guys they're going to have today definitely are Jordan Watkins and Dayton Wade. They're both pretty undersized. LSU's going to have a size advantage on the outside, something that they haven't really had much this year. So I want to see if they can actually take advantage of that. Do they play a little bit more man coverage because of it? Maybe. Can they contain Jackson Dart in doing so? That's another question there. So that's a matchup that maybe somehow is kind of flown under the radar, even given LSU struggles in the secondary.
Yeah, that's certainly one that we're going to be watching. For me, this is I understand that Ole Miss hasn't run the football as well, but the nightmare for me for LSU is the RPO game, and if that gets going and wakes up the slumbering Ole Miss run game that they have not been able to get going. I'm having some flashbacks to the second half against Florida State, the first half against Grambling, and some of the problems that they had defending the run, and that's a big concern for me. What's not is the way the LSU offense has been rolling. And, Alabama had some success in the second half last week. We know about their struggles both on the offensive line and at quarterback, and they really kind of got loose last week against Ole Miss. I think there's some big plays to be made there for the LSU offense.
I agree. Two things there. I love the emergence of Brian Thomas. It's given you a two-headed monster in the passing game that you lacked last year, if we're being quite honest. I mean, Kayshon Boutte wasn't what you thought he'd be. Thomas was a bit inconsistent. You had Malik Neighbors. Now you have Thomas and Neighbors. And then I kind of like to see them go to the running game a bit earlier in the ball game this week. I thought there were some opportunities early in the first half last week they didn't necessarily take advantage of until late in the second quarter.
All right, Eagle 98.1 Game Day following the game will be 90 minutes after. You got some thoughts on Notre Dame and Duke, the other big game?
Yeah, man, I think it's a Strong first half from Duke. I think Notre Dame probably pulls away late in that ball game, though.
Yeah, that's going to be a hyped-up atmosphere.
For sure.
My brother happens to be on campus there today. His wife graduated from Duke, and she's there for her class reunion. I went this weekend.
What a weekend.
Right,
that is strong planning.
This weekend, he says, yeah, we're not even trying to go to the Duke game. We're looking for a place to watch the LSU and Ole Miss game. But anyway, the Texas game with Kansas that we're watching right now, this matchup of ranked teams, notice that Jalen Daniels is not in the game for Kansas. I'm not really sure what's happened there. Auburn cashed in the long run with a field goal, so 3-0 Auburn with about 6 minutes to go in the first quarter. What'd you say, was it last week or the week before, Georgia plays with their food a lot?
They do. The slow starts have plagued them all year, and here it is again.
It was against South Carolina a week ago.
14-3 at the half they were down?
It was. And now, to their credit, when they got after it, they
were clearly better, yes.
But it took them a while. They face somebody that's really good.
That's going to get them.
It could come back to haunt them. Thanks to everybody for participating today. Again, the folks here at Rouse's, when you're coming in the next time for your tailgating needs here, look, the bakery, the wine, your spirits, all of your beer, ton of ice here as well, all of your meat products, all of it here at Rouse's, just a couple of miles off of campus. The hot bar, if you want it ready-made, is right here in front of us as well. So we invite you to stop by Rouse's here, corner of Burbank and Lee. From all of us here at Rouse's, everybody back at the flagship, I'm Charles Henniger saying thank you and good afternoon. Stay tuned for the LSU Sports Radio Network pregame show. That's next here. This has been Eagle 98.1 Game Day.
The following is an exclusive presentation.